Hey gamers. Um, we have a lot to go over, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it all because I don't know if I'll remember everything. But we're going to try our best. My windows are open, so sorry if you hear my neighbors. They all of a sudden started being audible, which is not actually a very common thing right when I was about to start streaming, so that's fun. But the air conditioning doesn't work on this side of the house, so I also have a fan on. So if you hear like white noise, that's what that is. But I'm not turning that off. I am not going to suffer that much for you. I suffer enough. Thank you very much. Oh, see, now I was planning on going over something in particular, and we'll get to that. But I made the mistake of going to the store before doing this video. And if you're wondering, oh, somebody's watching. Don't worry. There we go. They're gone now. Usually when I point out the one person watching, they vanish. That or like maybe they do like some internet trickery, so I can't see that they're observing me, but whatever. I usually talk to myself in my house, so it is what it is. But yeah, I made the mistake of going to the fucking store. And yeah, that turned into a whole debacle, but not before I noticed. And I only picked up on this because while I was driving back home, if you read my Discord, you'll know that I pointed out like this yellow sign that's like, beg Jesus for mercy. And I saw another neon sign right when I was turning onto Victory. So like almost right outside my house, essentially. Just right on the side there, leading up to the bridge. Garage sale. And that kind of ticked me off a little bit just because of like what happened with my garage and then me essentially getting accused of not really living here or being what do they call them, words, what are they, anyway, you know what I mean. So I was like, cool. And now typically like that wouldn't bug me, but again, I also want to point, I don't know which direction it is, but I don't really have like a thumbnail photo. So it's just a green eye. So it fits more in more than one way. Cue helicopter or plane. Who's to say which? I can't see it. But yeah, the harassment started like immediately. Oh, did I go over why I'm doing this on YouTube as opposed to Discord? Let me just get to that real quick because it's very simple. I'm losing space on my laptop. I have like, if there's like a bar of memory, that's about what I have left to do anything. And I do have an idea of a solution, and I was going to be better about it than I have been, which was just every couple weeks to buy like a memory card or like a flash drive and upload everything and just keep my computer like not wiped, but you know, to keep it so it doesn't get mucked up like my last phone was, because that was a fucking disaster. Um, but until I make those transfers, I'm I'm gambling every time I take screenshots now. It's like every time I do videos or photos and then upload them to Discord, because I don't want to delete those. Just because they're on Discord doesn't mean that they're safe forever, right? And then I have things that I don't upload as well. So yeah, that's a little bit stressful, but I do have a solution. But until I get to doing that, especially if I want to just get out a lot of information, this is going to be the better medium for me. I know it's going to probably be harder for anybody who cares and wants to watch. For that, I do apologize. I do think that the shorter form content is easier for people, especially modern day. 405, as I look up at the seconds, to 406, fun. But this is just what it's going to have to be today. So I'm sorry. I genuinely feel bad about it, and I do apologize. But hey, maybe some of you actually like the longer. Sorry, there's like a thing right here. Let me just close this window. It's like bugging me. maybe some of you like this and prefer this, or you think like they're fun and different, and I haven't done one in a while. So hey, you won the lottery. Today's your lucky day. through the divinity of the stars, and much to my disgruntlement, we find ourselves here. Cheers. But yeah, I made the mistake of going to the store. Back to the story. I get to the store and I'm sitting in like my car for a second, and there's nothing out of the ordinary to me. Oh, other than when I left, beyond seeing the sign, the first thing that I see pulling out, there's a man like walking towards me with his bicycle, but there's also a white Kia Soul. Like it could have been the model of mine parked right next to my garage. And I think we brought up Kias yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So I was already kind of like, and then the garage sign thing happened, pardon me. I get to the store. I think I might have parked in front of a Kia and there just happened to be a man sitting in there, but I'm not entirely sure because I was too focused on trying to figure out what I wanted to buy for my falafel wraps. I have a shit ton of like a tub of hummus from Costco, and now I don't really know what to do with it. So we are going to be making falafel wraps this week. And that'll be fun. But I didn't know what I wanted to put in them. And honestly, I didn't like any of the recipes that were being suggested. So after a while, I was just like, fuck it. Let's just get to the store, like walk in and figure it out. As I'm walking, there's a hummingbird. I look to my left. There's two entrances. I look to my left and there's like a fight. There's yelling that catches my attention firstly. And then I see like a fight's happening. And it's like, okay, that's a little weird. And I happen to clock that one of the managers that I know named Will is a part of this shuffle. And I'm just like, hey. And I keep walking. And I walk into the store and on my safe side. And I'm just like, what would I be able to do? One, but two, it's just like, I'm going to remember this, right? But until I can like maybe at home and put some things together, like it's just a very strange occurrence. And a little upsetting. Like you don't want to see a fight outside of your store. And I'm not entirely certain, but I think the person that was a part of it, like the instigator, so to speak, was a homeless person. And we can get into this conversation a little bit later, but I am under the impression that people get really like fucked in the head sometimes on purpose, just so they can get weaponized down the line and get utilized, in ways through like the puppet mastery of the world, or as I like to put it, if you're familiar, like Xing, or they get Tesla'd, Starlinked around, and they get human trafficked into doing things that would otherwise maybe not happen. And it's a way for the world to still appear organic and natural, but clearly there is like an augmented program element to what transpires. And I've likened it before, and I find this very helpful to liken it to like when you go to Legoland, if you're familiar. Even if you're not, you might kind of know what I'm talking about. They'll have like huge displays of Legos, and like there'll be aspects of it that are electronically charged. And so things are moving and things are happening and planes are taking off and trains are going around, and it's like, that's the grid system. And that is, I believe, what is imposed upon us, unfortunately. And I do consider it trafficking, especially to the degree in which we find ourselves being affected. Now, if we were to have open conversations about this and people were aware and there was, laws to dictate when that was not appropriate and when it becomes a crime that people are doing this, controlling you in a way or another, we would be in a better spot. But nobody talks about anything here. And I just get really frustrated with all of you all the time. To be frank, I get really, really fucking frustrated with all of you all the fucking time because you don't know how to speak about anything important. And all you do is gossip and all you do is get in on the drama. And we just live in filth because of you. We live in filth because you don't know how to speak. Okay, you don't know how to have serious conversations. And if everybody had this serious conversation with me and other people who want to have it, then we would have this pressure system and a pushback against the powers that be that do this. And maybe, just maybe, we'd be able to actually get a sense of freedom and have, our faculties about us once more. And maybe, people would not get cancer anymore, because what if cancer is just a scheme? I've speculated that there's this idea where you can just create a programming where it's like, okay, well, you want to pump up the market for your pharmaceuticals or whatever. Specifically, let's say you have stock or whatever in the cancer market and those medications. Well, you're going to want to make sure people keep getting cancer so you can keep filling your pockets. So people might just honestly be randomly selected in like a lottery system to get cancer just to make sure certain people are better off than others. Like, that is a very plausible thing that could be happening. And we're just like, oh, cancer, let's find a cure. Come on. Come on, guys. Like, we're better than this. And then car accidents, we've talked about that before. I like almost 1000% certain what happened to Kyrie Jackson was on purpose. Like, people are like, oh, an accident with a drunk driver, but the driver was drunk. I'm like, I am under the impression that was still a murder. The drunk driver, I think, was the murderer, but I think there's a third party who's actually the intentional murderers. I believe it was murder with intent. It was planned, it was predestined. And like, how shitty that people just get away with shit like that, Like, no, that's an attack on everybody when things like that are just allowed to fly and we don't speak about it. Like, absolutely not. Water just hits different some days, and god damn it, today is one of those days. It's cold and it's what I need. Sorry. Let's focus on the little good things that happen every so often. So yeah, I really do think the point back to it is I think this might have been intentional, and we'll get as to why actually a little bit further into our story. I get into the store, and let me see. I've tried to kind of curate a note system of how to go over this. Give me 1 second, gamers. I don't actually have what I'm about to say on the notes. So let me look at my photos, because I took a couple. Oh, remember how I told you, if you're part of my Discord, about like the Spider-Man thing? This is the car. And there's also Naruto, but that I didn't know what to link that to, so I didn't quite mention it. But I'll zoom in the best I can, but it's kind of like, you see him in the, right there. He's hanging from the mirror. But yeah. Let's see. Let us see. Let me look through my photos. Okay. So one thing that I noticed as I'm walking, and again, like, I want you to keep in mind, that I'm kind of moseying about just a little bit because I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing when it comes to my falafels. And so I'm kind of looking around a little bit more. I'm a bit more observant just because I don't have a clear cut like definition of what it is I'm going to be selecting. So I happened to stop somewhere and look to my left, and immediately I'll show you the full image. 717, interesting. Crackjack. And I want to say it's this, but I have another photo just after it on the same aisle, just like two steps or paces further down. But I want to say it's during this photo that I'm like, oh, I take a picture of it. And I think as this is happening, it's not quite simultaneous. Like I'm a little bit faster than what's about to occur. But in my mind, I'm like, crack? Like, what does crack mean? Like, because we just talked about the car accidents and like Kyrie Jackson, for example, but I'm kind of thinking more so like Jack Smith, and, you know, they probably really don't like the guy. And there's other things that I've pulled with him, and so it's a lot, but I hear a lot. It's like that. It's like the louder one, the second one, behind me, a clap. And I'm like, what the fuck? And this guy walks by me, and I had seen him not just like a minute or so ago at the very end of the aisle, like not even in the aisle, like he's in the hallway that you could, you know, enter it. And he's standing there, and I see him and I take note of him because he's wearing a huge white helmet. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like you don't typically see, you know, motorcyclists or what have you in their helmets in stores, but hey, kind of cool. Like he looked cool to me. It's like, okay. But this guy who just was there is now walking behind me, clapped at me as I'm looking at Crackjack over here, thinking to myself, what does crack mean? Claps. And then as he's walking, I think he turns around, acknowledges me, and then he does this. So he makes a shot. And so now I'm like, to clap is to shoot. And then he shot. He took a shot. And it's like, that wasn't good. Like, that wasn't good at all. So that was really weird. On top of the fight that just happened, now I'm getting like clapped and shots. It's just like, there's a whole bunch of tomfoolery happening. I walk a couple paces down. It's literally like maybe 2 steps. Okay. And then I look to my left and I see King Oscar. I'll show you the big, I don't know, I'll zoom in a bit. And I'm only pointing this out specifically because Oscar, like the name and a person I used to work with, don't even ask me why, because I literally don't know. It's not that I wouldn't tell you. It's just I don't know. And I don't ever think about this person. Crossed my mind, I think yesterday night. And it was very weird because I couldn't place why. So I thought that was interesting. But then we also have like the King's Harbor thing, right? Also Oscar or O's car. And then, you know, the Kia Soul being out here, that kind of got clapped. Oh, and then it gets worse, by the way, with the car lore, because as I'm walking and trying to, I don't know exactly what I was trying to do at this point, maybe find a checkout stand. This girl, comes out of nowhere. Maybe I was going to the falafel section because I forgot to grab falafel mix. But one of those two scenarios is playing out. But I'm walking with the anticipation of moving forward, right? With my car. She comes out of one of the checkout aisles and it almost kisses, like runs like full speed into my cart. And then my Kia Soul accident flashes through my mind, not so much visually, but the idea is that when it happened, I was going straight towards a red light with the anticipation of just being able to stop at the red light like one typically does, right? Oh, no. This car makes a left like right in front of me, and I'm not like slowing down yet necessarily. And we total our cars, right? And right where I'd hit her on the side, the passenger door, in the second row, is her small young girl child. And I'm like, oh my God, it's almost happening again. It was terrible. I fucking hated it. Luckily, we didn't hit. The girl was fine. But like, I was like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how they traffic people here. Again, and nobody says anything. I guess nobody cares. So that almost happened. It was minor heart attack, right? It's just like, Jesus Christ. That's what really fucked me up the most when my accident happened, honestly, is the fact that I could have killed a kid. Like, that's crazy. So I was very not happy when this happened, as you could probably imagine. But it happened. But again, the nice thing is she didn't just plant herself into my car at full speed, because I honestly think she would be on the floor crying if she did. I walked into my wall full speed and broke my toe and literally was on the ground crying. So running full speed into a car, I think would maybe have a somewhat similar effect. And she's a kid. Like, I'm an adult. I can handle pain just a little bit more maybe. Also, I've grown up with really bad cramps, so I'm kind of used to pain. People always ask me about my tattoos, and I'm like, yeah, I have a high pain tolerance. And I honestly think it's just because they fuck with my cramps so bad. Like, not every month now, but like there was one time, and I didn't know this could happen until it happened to me. You can projectile vomit. That's how bad my cramps were when I was younger. I just was really ill, and my vomit went poof. It was so not fun, dude. But yeah, I'm getting ready to choke out. I pull into a lane, and the checker is missing actually, but I see the lights on, and I see the woman in front of me putting things on the conveyor belt, and I'm like, this is kind of risky, in the sense of like, I don't know if maybe they forgot to turn off the light, and this lady just assumed that there was a checker. And that they'd be right back and started doing this, but really the lane's closed, scenario. And I'm like, do I really want to invest in this lane, put my things down, and then turns out we have to switch over, right? But then I noticed that I might fuck up the pronunciation, and for that I apologize. Rocio, Rocio, is helping bag on the other checkers station. And I'm like, oh, she will be right back. That's just what she's doing. So the woman ahead of me is taking her time, putting her things on the belt. I'm starting to now do that with the clarity that, things will be fine. And so Rocio and the woman, it was an older woman with shorter hair. I want to say she was wearing purple. Start having a conversation. I'm a little bit hard of hearing, I think. Sometimes I also feel like they can intentionally fuck with your any type of ability, honestly. But I can't quite make out everything that's about to be said. But I catch little glimpses into the conversation. For example, Rocio was a part of this fight that happened outside. And I was like, oh, I'm not having this conversation. I'm just over here, and I'm not an eavesdropper, but like, because I believe this is all a part of like a bigger play, and I'm trying to kind of like document it in a way, or get to the bottom of it, or at least share things that happen like this. So maybe to better educate people, know what to look out for, what to pay attention to, and so on. I am trying to actively listen to this conversation. So what I can glimmer is Rocio was a part of the fight. the man had picked up something. I guess he was banging on an object, and then Rocio was just like, take it or something. And it was like a bigger object, perhaps. And the man like picks it up, and Rocio, you know, because of the banging and maybe the back and forth between them, is under the impression he's going to attack her with the object, which I think is a reasonable thing to maybe think would occur, right? Especially if the person maybe looks a little bit disheveled in one way or another, right? You can kind of maybe discern if there's a little bit of mental fuckery going on. Totally valid. So she raises her hand to protect herself. And this man starts saying to her that she's going to hit him. And so, and it's possible that he might have, right? It's just like all of these things play out so fluidly. She was just trying to protect herself, and that, you know, the raising of the arm motion. It turns into a big deal. I'm not really able to get too much more than this, but I guess apparently the fight took itself outside, and Rocio wasn't physically involved. But I am under the impression that there were physical blows. Specifically, I know this to be a fact because when I was in the backer part of the store, one of the men that I saw, I don't know this man's name, but he was with Will, and maybe there was another person. I can overhear him just say, like, ow, that hurts. And I don't think I've ever punched anyone, but I would assume either if you punch or you kick, or if that happens to you, yeah, that might hurt. And I want to note that it's not really typical for a man to, I think it's, for a man to say something like that in public is maybe a little bit different than a man saying that at home or amongst his friends. Like, I think it probably had to significantly be in pain if he's just like muttering this to himself, like in a public space. And I feel bad, right? Like, I genuinely am like, you know, because it's not that I want to say things happen because of, how do I phrase this? I feel in a way I might have been an inciting incident, in the sense of I was planning on going to the store, you know, they know my mind. Like, it's not like my mind is this wonderful sacred palace that is only my own. They fuck with my head all the time. They read my thoughts all the time. Like, you know, this is like the stereotypical, and it goes to show it isn't only a me problem, but it's like, have you ever thought of something and then all of a sudden you start getting ads on Amazon? Like, that is the technology we're living in right now. And what's really scary about that is they could be the very ones putting something in your head, like, hey, you want to buy this, or hey, you want to go to the store, or hey, you know, you want to buy tickets to this show, and they have a setup waiting for you. Do you know what I mean? And you're just like, oh, it's just a naturally occurring thought. No, what if it's not? And we're losing ourselves to an AI algorithm. You know, if they want more people to buy Taco Bell, no offense, Taco Bell, they could very well just like slam people's heads with Taco Bell. And a good chunk of them, maybe it's not that they wouldn't understand this technology, but not having open conversations and dialogue, wouldn't stop to think to themselves, okay, do I really want Taco Bell, or is this something else getting pushed through me? Like, I'm getting an ad in my head for Taco Bell. I'm getting Taco Bell thoughts, right? And people don't have the ability to stop and really question where their thoughts are actually coming from. Because I promise you, it's probably not you. And maybe it never was. And the fucked up part is there's this understanding that we are autonomous. I don't think that's the case. It's so funny because I grew up, and a lot of you, with articles starting to surface about AI and the worry about AI revolting, AI this, AI that. What happens if AI goes bad? And I'm like, but we're the AI. We are. And so maybe they're just worried about people, like, you know, coming to being like, you know, this is really fucked up what you're doing here, buddy. Like, what is this? What is this little world of yours? Danette's kind of put it like Westworlds, right? She doesn't often give me valuable commentary. I have to tell you, but there was that one day that she said that, and I was like, I'm gonna have to look into what that is because I've never heard of it. And I did, and I was like, yep, that tracks. That tracks. But yeah, I think because they like to fuck with me so much, sometimes it starts to interfere with other people's lives. And I think this might have been one of those cases. And again, we'll get into why specifically. But as I am partially listening to this conversation, I happened to notice the people behind me, and they were very close to me, by the way. Like, I felt sandwiched between this lady, and I didn't want to move my cart anymore, and I could have to give me more space. But like, their cart is like right on me, right? Like, there's no breathing room between me and their cart. There's a guy standing on the side of the cart, and there's another guy, and they're like, there's just no space between us. And I don't know if that was just because they're just, I don't know. I try to give people breathing room. I was not given that grace for one reason or another. But I happened to clock that the shirt of the gentleman next to me, it's black, has a wolf design on it. And I thought that was interesting because of the wolf that I now have in I think his name is like Snackles. I don't know. I think his name's Snackles. But I now have a wolf plushie in my car. And I made this a public, knowledge. I put it in the public domain. I bought or purchased this thing because otherwise nobody should know, right? So I was like, oh, not my bad, but like, I would understand why somebody would maybe see that and be like, oh, whatever. I don't know. Hey, oh, the person's here and then they're gone. Again, maybe it's a different person. Hey, bye, hi, this one's for you, or maybe not. Sorry, I'm so dumb sometimes. You kind of have to like have some fun in your life when things are like this bad. And I'm saying that as I've literally watched a bat. Things are just very batty. And you're like, how do you know there's a bat? Because like once in a while against like the lighter skies, the sun is descended, but the sky is still illuminated in a way. Everything is dark and full of shadow other than these like little black like darts. And there's nothing else it could be but a bat. Like, yeah, hi, buddy. Batman's just outside listening to me. He's like, this girl knows what she's talking about. Batman's a stan, you guys. No, wait, stans are bad, aren't they? He's a fan? Probably not, but I can write my own lore, okay? So I noticed this man's shirt, and then I noticed he's with another man. And that was about it, other than the fact that I have no space. I'm just like moving my head around, just, surveying the land, so to speak. I clock another woman, and she's wearing a black bandana, and I realize she's waiting outside of the aisle for these two gentlemen. So black bandana, black wolf shirt. And I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of like vibing with these people in a way. And it's not like there's a negative or positive connotation of this, just to be clear. It's just like we seem to be a part of the same like IP. Like we're operating on the same intellectual property, right? So I'm like, all right, interesting. As I'm still actively trying to listen to the best of my ability, I happen to look over again and I see that one of the guys, or the guy in the white shirt, is holding up a DoorDash pass to the like showing it to the lady in the bandana. And now this really strikes me because I just posted the Dasha Austin video. Or no, I don't think I posted the video. I think I just said something of it. I pointed out some people who were involved in that production. So yeah, it's a really good song, by the way. I was banging it. I had heard it when I was driving to see Danette, and I turned my radio up super loud because I like it so much. I forgot that the lady who sings it looks like Taylor Swift, and I was like, oh, interesting. Anyway, um, I want to be very clear, by the way. I feel like celebrities, because you know they know things that regular folk don't. If they really cared about their fans, and I know this is not a smart business move, but if you really care about people, you would be having conversations like this, because you just be like so horrified at the world and the human trafficking elements, and you'd be like, they have to know. Like, you would take care of your flock, you know what I mean? They don't do that. They piss me off. Politicians don't either, and they have like a bigger responsibility to do that because they get paid to work on behalf of people. The entertainers have the luxury, and I don't think it's quite right to just being like, oh, we're just entertainers, you know, it's not our responsibility to take care of you. But politicians, yeah, it is. Actually, it is your job to take care of people. And you not talking to people and you not educating people on anything of the world and the reality of our like dire situation disgusts me. Quite frankly, it really fucking pisses me off. I don't appreciate you. You're just a stand-in. You might as well be a paid actor because you're not doing your job. You're just in there for the celebrity of it, the fame, the money. You just want to seem important. Fuck you. There's a dog barking. Thank you, dog. Fuck you. Thank you. Anyway, I'm like sweating. You'd think as the sun goes down, it'd get chillier. I think maybe I've just worked myself up into a frenzy. It happened. This is like is about as scary as I get. I just get a little bit loud and a little bit pissed off. But I'm not like that bad. But yeah, I do work myself up. And rightfully so, though, by the way. I think I have every right to be this angry, like genuinely fucking angry. Fuck all of you. Fuck this. This is not the life I wanted. I didn't want a life. I went off in Costco yesterday. I forgot exactly what had happened and I forgot exactly what I'd said, but essentially I'd said amongst so many people around me, I was like, I told Danette in a very like loud and clear voice, I'm like, Earth sucks. I don't want to be here. Like, this is terrible. This is a terrible experience. Danette and I got kind of quiet after that, but not before I catch eyes with a man just like maybe like 4 or 5 feet ahead of me, maybe a little bit more distance. And his eyes are wide. He's like a taller, pale, like white man, shorter hair. I think he's in blue shirt. He catches my eyes and they're open. And I don't know how to read his expression, but I'm almost certain he overheard what I said and he had a reaction. But what I thought to myself was, you know what? People need to hear shit like this. Some people are too comfortable in their little safety bubbles. We have to make a conversation of our situation. You know, you don't know of a fire coming your way and not tell the townsfolk about it. And worse yet, it's we find ourselves living in the fire. We've just learned to live in hell. Speaking of hell, the guy was in a helmet who clapped and shot, right? Picked up on that too. But it's just like, we deserve better than this, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't think so, if we are all victims of a human condition that is preordained, we have every right and the power and the technology to create a different human experience. One where people, if they're good enough, don't have to die or can transfer to different bodies, okay? We have the ability to make it so abortion doesn't even have to happen. because birth doesn't have to happen and we're just grown in labs and we don't have to fucking suffer through birthing anymore and all of the complications that could happen with that, right? That's a possibility. There's a possibility that we live in a world where there is a proper grid system that we all agree to that keeps us safe on the roads and traffic accidents never happen anymore. And if they ever do, we're all under the collective impression we're getting hacked in the infrastructure, and we should take offense to that. We can live in a different world. We can write and define the human experience. We're not doing that right now. We're just letting things happen. Why? Let's take creative authority. Where is the leadership? Where's the vision? Where is it? I'm sick of this shit. They feed us shit and they want us to act like we should be happy about it. I literally told Danette, because she was trying to make it seem like, no, this was okay. You know, all of this. And I'm like, what you're saying is ink stock. Like, you are disillusioned. And I think she's intentionally like this, by the way. I don't think like the wool is pulling over her eyes and she can't see through the complications and all that. No, I think she's intentionally a part of the Orwellian experience and she's like protective of it, probably. You know, all like the behind the scenes mechanics. And I think one time, I don't know exactly how it came up. Maybe it was during the Westworld thing, but like, I think she had said once, like, the AI might be getting too smart. And it's like, because of how now I think of people, actually, and it's so unfortunate, like, that we are actually AI, a lot of us. It's like, I wonder if there's just really a worry amongst the people who have put us in this position in the first place, that if we ever get wise to our condition, our entrapment, our enslavement, you know, something might happen to them. I've also speculated, and by happen, I mean, it's like we hold them accountable. Like, we should hold everybody accountable. Like, this is so horrific, what's happening here to all of us. I'd like to think all of us would like to get to the bottom of it and like to see the faces and know the names of the people responsible and involved. But yeah, I've speculated that like the term nuclear might be a little bit actually different. I do think there's like the nuclear bomb, but I think nuclear is this idea where they just have to like wipe AI. And like one day we can all still like technically maybe be alive, but they've redone everybody's brain in a way. It's a nuclear. It's a nuclear on everyone's brain, specifically wiping any of the information that would lead us to the source of our problem in our situation. They just erase it. You know, they're writing history in the moments, in the minds. So, you know, we talked about like the mind flare, for example, some time ago. And then I had mentioned how I thought it was interesting, actually, that the mind flare was next to the Minotaur, which happened to be Sam's new character. And we're going to get to that, which is honestly what I was preparing to talk about. And then all of this other shit happened. But yeah, so where was I? Was it the DoorDash sign? And so I'm just like, okay. As I'm driving home, Austin starts to play. But not before I talk to Rocio. And I tell her that, because Rocio tells me, you should see your mom more. Because I told her I visited Danette. And I was like, I want to clarify something real quick too. I said that she lived near Manhattan, and I'm only saying that because of the helmet, which is kind of like a hat thing that happened. I'm saying that for the sake of my evidence. Like, some people are like, why are you stopping and saying that? Don't worry about it. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's not that big of a deal. She told me I should see Danette more, and I told her, I'm like, we don't get along. I'm like, I'm good. Like, having space between us is the better relationship for us. Because yeah, it just is. That's just it's what works best. And I'm not looking to change that dynamic. Also, I really do think Danette is involved specifically in why my life is shit. For example, we were at Costco and she was taking a good moment to reflect on this plastic empty box. And the intention of this plastic empty box was to be a shoe container for your closets. And she specifically mentioned a closed set closet. Whereas I think I actually, before she said that, I was like, oh, that's so neat, a shoebox. Because I didn't quite put all the pieces together yet and why this might be offensive to me specifically, living in like a glass house where people know way more about me than I even share. It's like living in a fishbowl, honestly. But yeah, it's like, I think I had said like, oh, that's so nice. Like you can put your slippers, because she has dogs. I'm like, you could put your slippers by your bed and lock them in the little box and your dog won't eat them. Or you could put it like by your front door. Like these are what I was thinking of. And she's like, no, you put it in your closet, like for closet organizers. And I'm like, oh, all right then. So she had done that. Somehow I managed to be carrying her pillows, like these huge pillows that like covered me. Like it looked like, if this is like a regular size pillow, oh, it's kind of not, it's a little bit smaller. Like, by the way, I have these on my bar stools because Danette took my bar seats, never returned them, and said Daniel threw them away. So I have to sit on these fucking rinky-dink fucking pillows, and my ass always hurts if I don't like stack them right. And I always have to restack them because they slip and slide all over, and it's really fucking annoying. And I honestly think she did it on purpose, but I can't prove that. But it's a working theory. Anyway, if this is a regular size pillow, these pillows were like here to like here, like, and both of them were like, I'm just realizing I'm missing the blanket from that one. Like sizable, you know? So it's not just that it's long, it's also wide. So I'm like carrying this and it's covering me up. Like it's a cover up. It's covering me up. And so that happened with Danette. And then really quickly, I'm going to add something. It's a little bit off sides, but it's also not. When I was speaking with her at Callows, which sounds a lot like gallows in my opinion, which led me to hang time. And I honestly think they tried to snap my neck on that ride and kill me. But they didn't somehow. I don't know how. I did not die on that ride. And then again, remembering in that incident, like right before, Ledger, whose birthday happened to be just days ago, just was like, oh yeah, I was looking up these videos of a person committing suicide from that ride over there. I'm like, Ledger, what are you doing? No, don't do that. It's gonna fuck you up. Ledger's also a very troubled person mentally, but it's hard to completely. Yeah, it's just they've gotten to him. That's how I think of people who really struggle in the mental faculties department. And I mean, I do too in my own right. But like Ledger's a little bit, yeah, but that's just what they do to people. They just fuck them up and either weaponize them, or, you know, it's for their sick fantasies. Like Ledger has, I won't get too much into it, but Ledger has been a part of some things that I consider to be pedophilic. And it's like, what if that's just content? Because I know how they can just watch people. And it's like, you know, the powers that be just really wanted their pedophile stuff. And like they got it through him, you know, like it disgusts me, this world we live in. And all of us just, well, I'm not quiet, but you are. You can't claim to be against things like pedophilia and then just like be so blinded to how it can happen in so many different ways through how they can human traffic. Like, come on, be smarter than that. Do better. Anyway, you guys really just don't care about anybody. Like I don't, I think it's that you don't care and you're worried that if you make a fuss, then your life's going to get worse. And I understand that completely. I really do. But when it gets this bad, I don't know. Maybe you start to think about saying things and actually sticking up for your brothers and sisters around you, whether they be adopted or it's just your neighbor or a homeless person. You know, maybe you start to actually care about how things happen to people and how it is we even find ourselves in the situation in the first place, and working on, you know, holding people to account and changing it up a bit. In your own time, though. Well, wait, we'll all be miserable until the rest of you just decide that maybe you've had enough finally. What was that? It sounded like thunder. I don't think that was thunder, though. Is that you? Is that you, Bean? Oh, sorry, this is by my foot. It was weird. Yeah, thunder, clap. Back to Callows really quickly, just to round off that little side story. Her and I were having a conversation in which I'd say on my end, I was being completely transparent and honest about my life and what's been going on. And she tried to once again push this idea of like, maybe you should try medication. And I was like, Danette, I know from my last experience talking to somebody in a therapeutic, I don't know, a therapy session, they just weren't receptive to what I was saying. Even if they knew what I was saying, they weren't receptive to it. They even one time wore a Lion King, like Simba, Timon and Pumbaa shirt, I think, of like walking, but like Simba, symbology, Lion King when I was living by Kings Harbor. It's just, all of it was starting to get really funky with her. The FBI Instagram page started posting things that were like in key parts similar to some of my visits. And there were like other materials and things in which their page, I believe, was saying, we know about you, we know what you're doing, and that's it. Very unhelpful, by the way, because I reached out to them and I got nothing other than, oh, you should see a therapist. When I try to talk to them, oh, you're hearing voices, you should go talk to somebody. I'm like, I'm being attacked in my home. If you're not going to do something about it, then who? But I was like, I know for a fact, talking about everything that happens to me, that this therapist, if they decide, or psychiatrist, if they decide to put me on medication, it's going to be because they think I have a mental problem. They're going to think I'm going crazy. And it's like, no, you don't seem like you're going crazy. And I'm like, I know that. But the things that I've been through get put into this idea of mental instability. It's like the gaslighting or like the reverse psychology, you know. And luckily, I'm very fortunate in this way. I've found a way to balance myself and to talk myself through a lot of the shit I get through. And I'm able to maintain a sense of myself and inner peace. But not a lot of people do that, right? Like not a lot of people can train themselves or have the opportunity to take the time to train themselves to do this. And so they fall victim to the insanity. They fall victim to the anger. They fall victim to the schizophrenic episodes that play out before them, you know, or they're like reading too much into the conspiracy and the world looks like it's talking to them. I'm like, because all of that happens when you're getting targeted and attacked. It's not mental health. I mean, it's a partially, you know, mental health order or disorder, but it's like you are a victim. And I don't want to be prescribed a medication under this false impression by this person who thinks or wants to act and pretend like a politician in their own way. They're a professional trying to help me, when they're just going to write it off as another mentally ill person. You know, like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not giving them that from me. One, but two, like, did you ever think, Danette, and she got kind of quiet after this, it's like that when they give you these medications, it's because they're creating a problem and they're also creating the solution. Back to this idea of filling pockets. They are creating a mental disease and creating the thing in which to help it because they want money. They're creating a false scenario to fuck people over. It's sick. It's sick out here. We're surrounded by fucking freaks. So I was like, no. But, and this actually didn't occur to me until maybe even today. Maybe it was last night. I was like, oh my God, she brought up the pills again. Because I've told her specifically a couple of times, I don't do the pills anymore. For very specific reasons. I don't take pills anymore. Even if my periods are killing me, I don't take pills anymore. And there's been times since I told her that where she, being a bitch, will be like, if I'll text her and just like casually tell her I'm having back cramps, oh, you should take some Tylenol Advil. It's like, you know, I try to kill myself with that shit, right? And she's just a cunt. She's a fucking cunt. Like, she's not even a good actor. Like, she's not even a good actor. You can see through her so quickly if you just know what to look for. 55, 54, by the way, to 56 for the fucking tip number. But it's like her weekend. It's funny because Joe Biden had like quite the debate. I know. But it's like Danette had her wits about her and all of her mental faculties yesterday. She has not had a weaker performance, in my opinion. I was seeing through her and just like I wasn't going to give her too much of an inch. Every time that I could clock something, like I was just going to be very brutally honest with her. But it didn't occur to me until after like I got home. It was like, oh my God, once again, she tried to take me to take pills. I.e., in my mind, she's telling me to just go fuck myself, go kill yourself, right? Like a kind, loving mother would, in her own special way. Now, this brings me back to the main story, in which we're at Rocio's check station. I had overheard how she had put her hand up to defend herself, whatever. She thought she was going to get attacked. Fast forward, I'm just like trying to like get there in my head. Okay, so I'm telling her that Danette and I don't get along. It's better if we have space between us. And Rocio is like, oh, I have a sister like that. And I'm like, huh. Interesting. It's just like, why that struck me is I used to have a friend named Brittany, Houston, not quite Austin, but Houston, who, and I never grew up with this lingo, by the way, but she would always be like, oh yeah, I was like my sister. Danette yesterday even mentioned, and I didn't know this about her, she called Wendell, I'm so sorry, Wendell, if you don't want to share it, but I think it's important people understand how things work here. Sorry, but he has stage 4 cancer, and you know he's gonna die from it, right? She had mentioned to me that Wendell was like her brother, and I didn't know they had that kind of relationship. That was like brand new to me. And so there's a couple of things we could take away from this, but I know the point I wanted to make. Okay, sorry. This is why I'm like, you have no idea how much I have to share and if I'm going to be able to do it. I'm trying my best. With that in mind, the not getting along with her sister, me saying I don't get along with Danette, her calling Wendell her brother, Wendell dying, you know, soon enough from cancer. Soon enough, by the way, could be like 3 years. I don't know. But like, it's an inevitability, right? Like not everybody has like a timer or like a flashing light of like, you're gonna die, right? And this man does. But I also then remembered putting this all together was how Rocio was accused by the man of raising her hand because he then thought that she was going to hit him. And I don't know if you clocked it, but yesterday I used my preferred initials, at least for a time. I don't know. I'm always like changing names and things, but like he. So I called myself he. It's almost kind of funny because it's like, you're not a guy. I'm like, they're my initials, idiot. You know, but like the idea that people also get really triggered by like gender swaps or, you know, transgender isms. And I'm just like openly calling myself he, but it's like a little bit of a different thing. If you want to be not nosy about it, but if you want to understand the name itself, I've been given 3 middle names. So Hannah, Noelle, Elizabeth. And I just wanted to chop off my last names. I grew up with one, wasn't even my last name, come to find. And then I never really talked to my father figure, not my father figure. I call him a sperm donor, honestly. Like he just provided the sperm that created me. He never, you know, was there in my life enough so to, I think, really get the fathering brand from me. So he's just not going to get it. Kirkland, by the way, the Costco brand. So this idea that he thought that this woman was going to hit him, her name being Rocio. Rosie's a dog that we had. Sorry, this is a lot of just random bits of information at the moment. We'll get back more to a streamline momentarily, but Rosie had to be put down like about a week or two like after my grandma passed away because Rosie just started shitting herself. Careful, Bean. I have my windows open like I stated, and she's swatting at the screens, but the screens don't stay in very well, and I'm nervous. 1, they're gonna fall, but 2, like she'd be like, "Oh, what a great opportunity to jump out the window." So maybe let's not do that. I see the bug, Bean. I see the fucking bug. I bet you it's there on purpose to get me sidetracked and to give me a bit of a stress to worry about. Don't you just love being here? So she's like, he accused me of trying to hit him when I was defending myself. And then I guess he'd come back. I didn't share this necessarily, but it tracks. It's like he tried to like take videos of me or like pictures of me. And I was like, don't do that. He was like, or she was like, don't do that to him. And I actually had took a picture of a setup Danette had put in her middle seat of her car yesterday. And I'm pretty sure Danette caught me doing it, but for the sake of evidence, at some point, I just stopped caring. And so the idea that Rocio to this man, each thinking they were about to hit each other, the idea of like hits or shots are getting clapped, by the way, or cracked when it comes to Jack. Like, don't take pictures. But to me, I'm like, you don't want me to get the evidence? I took a picture of all of this in the back seat of her car, and you could see a bunch of flowers. You can see a dog, and that is for absorbent puppy pads. There's hangers, okay? And then there's a pie right there. Danette informed me she was getting a new puppy. Another Russian. So I really just think that all of this is coming together to be a part of a bigger conversation. I know it's not as clear necessarily as like a straightforward, I'm walking through an aisle, I'm picking up on this, and then this happens. It's kind of in this moment, we're trying to like bring together a lot more of the bigger picture or happenstance. And a bits of history we're now pulling threads of. But if you follow this enough from me and, you know, maybe you take notes about like things you think are important. Like this will make sense. So I think the man thinking Rocio was going to attack him and then trying to get the evidence, and then Rocio being like, don't do that. And then she's like, I was just doing it for defense, you know, raising up my arm. I'm like, this sounds like Danette trying to weasel out of like getting me killed via either hang time. Again, there's hangers back there. Or sending me to 304. And then maybe there being like a plot of like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, we'll try to get her to like overdose or like do something to herself. And so on and so on and so on. Get in a car accident. Oh, this is another thing we have to bring up. So the Tyree, pardon me, I'm so sorry. The Kyrie Jackson thing. I actually thought a car accident might happen a couple of days before I went out to see Danette again, because the last time I saw her, I went to Target. And if you recall, that was the trip, I believe, where driving was just horrendous for me. And I almost got into what I believe to be 2 accidents or 3. I think I thought I almost got into 3 accidents, one being really bad, like high speeds, like on the freeway. But I actually ended up getting an a fender bender, though I didn't know this until I got home. I swear on my life, I did not realize this. I would have followed proper procedure. I swear to God, or whoever it is that you choose to pray to, even though I don't think they're doing you any services and helping you out in any way on this fucking planet. You know, it's just like, I really didn't think I did anything, but I apologize. And we know we can get to that later. But also, hear me out, the human trafficking element and how things just get manufactured and then people just get blamed on the floor for it. So with that in mind, I'd also like to state my case. But I remembered that I'd almost gotten into a really bad accident, even a couple of accidents in the same Target trip, trying to see Danette. And the reason that was because it was during like the day in which it was announced that I believe it was Israel had carried out a mission to kill, and I don't know if this is quite correct, so please do your research or correct me if I'm wrong. They'd killed like an important individual within the ranks of Hezbollah somewhere, or maybe another terroristic entity, or Hezbollah, Hamas. What the fuck is Hezbollah? Maybe that is right. I don't know. Something like that. But they kept on my YouTube feed showing me random videos. I never clicked on them, but the word assassinate kept coming up. Assassinate, assassinate, assassinate. And then I was like, I'm seeing Danette. I know her and we are coming from very different places. And I do believe she's set me up for death a couple times, just hasn't been successful, probably to her dismay. But I was like, I wonder if they're going to Princess Diana me. You know, I wonder if when I go on this next trip to see her, like they'll try it again and maybe they will be successful in this murder. And so I already was clocking a car accident. And that morning, the day that I went yesterday to see Danette, a huge car accident happened. And I was already picking up on like Kingdom Hearts shit. I totally forgot. I literally forgot Ray was going to play Kingdom Hearts. But I was wearing like this plaid and this red, and I like my outfit in my mind needed something. And so I put on my heart choker, and I'm like, this is so Kingdom Hearts coded. But there's a character named Kyrie, right? She actually has red hair, if you want to connect like the reds to anything or expand upon that, we'll say. But yeah, like I think I clocked the accident a good minute in advance, actually, which just goes to show accidents aren't accidents. They should be properly called murders. And you are not doing anybody any services by not saying otherwise. Like, that is so disrespectful to know that what happened to somebody was calculated, and you're just gonna be like, yeah, they died in a car accident. I'm sorry, but like, they deserve respect, you know, especially dying in such a horrific way. Do you know what? Like, oh God, like fuck off. It's murder, guys. That's murder. But yeah, I do think that I kind of did pick up on a little bit of like a back and forth with Rocio and the guy, and then our conversations. Her telling me to go see Danette more, like being like, "Oh, you should go visit her more." Drive out essentially and meet her and all that. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I think it's all a setup. I think they're trying to say, like, claim, like, we're just defending ourselves. And I'm like, from what? Defending yourselves from what? Being found out and being, held responsible and having to deal with consequences? There's this idea that I've had that people are really scared of me, and I don't know why. As I have this lovely water bottle next to me, my Reaper status is showing that people think that if I get in on their case, I might have this ability to make them Thanos snap. Thanos, by the way, has a T in it, Tyner, and an HAN, and then an OS for O's. Or did I show you the other picture? I did, right? For Oscar. So O's car, and then they planted the Kia Soul, and then by like the Cali Link Russian restaurant, you totaled my soul, totaled Kyrie Jackson. So people, I think, are scared that I would be maybe in an ability one day to cast a judgment on them that Thanos snaps them and they're just gone. Yeah, the Spider-Man plushie. Thank you. I forgot about that. I only like watched those movies once and I hardly remember them. By the way, I've speculated and like said to myself, I'm like, why does Tom Holland, like in that movie in particular, remind me of, I'll say their name, like Kaden. So another Russian, like the first Russian that Danette ever adopted. Which, speaking of, like, right back to Danette really quick, when she's like, oh, I'm going to get another dog. I'd asked her if she was going to get another girl. And she's like, no, I'm going to get a boy. And so it's almost as if she's repeating Zoe, by the way, or Zero. The R's cut off, right? I'm not a Russian. So if a dog's name is Zoe and the R's gone and having the Zero lore and her next couple of dogs maybe have an R associated with them, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And it's like, they think they're being like, I don't know, like the way these people troll, it's like the evidence speaks for itself and the evidence is loud. It's loud. Like, so why are you like making all these weird conversations about me capturing this photo, and the hanger and the pie and all of this random weird shit? When it's like, okay, so let's say the picture's out of the equation. What about the dog you have, stupid bitch? Like, what about your fucking dog's name? What are you going to say about that? It speaks for itself. The evidence literally speaks for itself. I think they've just gotten so comfortable with being dicks out loud. Like they feel maybe a sense of pride and be like, haha, it's over their heads. Like, they won't know. People know. And I'm guessing people probably don't like you for it. It's just like, we know how to be cordial. We have manners. We have standards. It reminds me of just like the pettiness of like high school, right? Like, I don't think Danette's ever quite grown up from being like a high school like bully in her head. I don't know if she was like that in school. Like, I wouldn't know, but it's like she maintains this status with me, which she's just a mean girl. She's just a genuine, honest to God mean girl. And I think she thinks she's much smarter than me. And, as luck would have it, maybe sometimes, but not always, So it's like, right. I also think there's this idea of like people get juiced or they get extra help if they're on a certain side or something. I find myself to be very underprivileged when it comes to, for example, like mental faculties and the ability to remember or retain information. Um, or, you know, I literally always feel exhausted, and I find it so hard to just do really anything. And normal people don't have to suffer and deal with this type of shit. Danette has her own stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I really think that she gets boosted. I think her and like people on her side probably get like boosted in ways like I can't even comprehend. But it's like, if that's what you think gives you superiority and not like a sense of morality or being a decent person, you are not a quality person. You have a really shitty character that you've built for yourself. I've had this waiting. Did I finish my water? Almost. Let me do it. But it's like, I wouldn't be proud of that. And I'd be very concerned when people start to figure out like what you've been in on, because people wouldn't like that. Like, it's not to say we all have to get along, but like what you're a part of is nasty. Like, it's evil what you do. It's very like calculated and like damning, you know? So I do think that people get a little bit concerned when it comes to me, that I might be able to either share evidence or again, find myself in a position in which I'm able to cast a judgment where their Thanos snapped. And I honestly, good, you should be scared. Look at what you've done. Look at what you continue to do. And then you dig yourself bigger holes and deeper holes trying to cover it up. Because you're that stupid. I'm going to solve my problem by making a bigger problem. It's like, yeah, okay. Sorry, that went down funny. Genius hours. Truly genius hours, these people. Which is another reason why we should be concerned about my idea of nuclear and the idea Donald Trump had nuclear codes. It's like, what happens if they really just don't want to have to deal with people anymore, and we wouldn't even know it. You know, an asteroid you can see coming from miles and miles away. One day, all of us could be wiped. Our bodies might still be here, by the way. Like, I don't know. Like, that's a lot of work to repopulate. In the sense of like physicality. If this is just like a simulated matrix, you could literally just auto generate and, you know, auto wipe and then auto random regenerate like a Minecraft seed, right? But it's like all of us could just be gone. All of us could just be gone tomorrow, and we wouldn't. Nothing would be said. There would be no history. Nobody. It's a crazy fucking thought, but it's a huge and deep and profoundly concerning idea that I've had. And I don't know if I've ever voiced it quite like I have now, but, you know, I'm not trying to scare people, but I like to be honest, and I like to be very honest about things. So, you know, I'm not saying this is like the end of days, but it's like, you should really take every day and enjoy it to your fullest, because you just don't know. You don't know what they're going to do to you, you know? And if my life is any testament, like, they are willing to do very nasty things. And these people are very sick. So you're like, oh, but, you know, just wiping us all, like, that seems like I think there's worse endings, right? Like dying in a car crash or getting cancer or a fire or something. And it's like, do you know what they very well might do to your body just for fun? Like, they might, like, these are very, very, very sick people that walk amongst us. Like, they are from a different code, man. They just want to act and look and like talk like us and fit in. But like, that is all they have going for us, or for them, for us. I'm not one of you. I find myself to be a part of the common core masses, the deeply uneducated, underprivileged, and seriously affected common core masses. I am not a part of your ranks by any means. Don't you ever say us again. It's not us. It's you, and it's the everybody with fucking half a fucking brain cell who's like, this is really fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, so cheers to that. Fuck you. Not fuck us. Fuck them. I mean, fuck us by them trying to say us. You know what I mean. I'm already fucked up. I didn't even drink yet. Come on. Ooh. But yeah, so all that happens with Rocio. I'm walking towards the produce aisle, and I happen to see I want to say it's like a red and striped blue jersey that has the name Rosie across it. And I think that's interesting. So Rocio, we have Rosie on the this man or gentleman's jersey. We have Carlo Rosie, which I bought more of while I was at the store, and which I am now drinking. And I want to also bring up the fact of, speaking of animals that got put down in my life. So we put Marco down when I was at 304. I'm bringing that up because Marco's a cat. And if you notice in that photo, I don't have to show you again. The screen's black though. He's a black cat. Oh, see, you try to flip that real fast to the fucking white. No, he was a black cat. You'll see there's a pie underneath the hangers. So the hang time incident, you'll see why this makes sense, happened on a different day, but it happened at Knott's Berry Farm. And the other Russian, so Piper, the one solo girl, it was Caden, so one boy, after me, the girl. By the way, Danette told me once or twice that I was meant to be a boy and my name was going to be like Nicholas. Was I supposed to be like Old Saint Nick? Which goes back to this idea of like Satan, Saint Nick. Close enough, right? I feel like I have lore like I don't even know, or like I don't even understand. Like I was like prophesied sometimes. It's just like I don't get it, man. And nobody says anything to me about it. I'm like, all right. And then yeah, it's so dumb here. It's so stupid the way they have like the whole world order working right now. We should fix that. We should work on that a little bit. We should be the authors of our own stories. You know what I mean? Anyway. So Marco was put down. Knott's Berry Farm. Piper was with us, but not during the hang time trip, but this other time. And I don't have it on this phone, but I did take a picture of her in a huge taco hat that she got. It was very strange. And I later took offense to this because this idea of me getting raped in my head and then taco being cat-o, right? Rearrange it a little bit, but you know what I mean? The idea of like this being a cat or a pussy that people can just go in via dark web or whatever. I don't know how they get in there and just rape me. And apparently that's just something that can happen and nobody does anything about it or cares enough to. And then again, Marco getting put down. It's all of this is like gyrating in like a very small, limited sphere of information, and it keeps colliding with itself. Do you know what I mean? And it's just the evidence is overwhelming. Hey, careful. Sorry, I didn't mean to like sound like I was angry. I'm so worried that she's gonna knock that out, and then it's not so much the knocking out I care about. I care about her jumping out my window. In the middle of the night. Don't want that to happen. So I can't tell you growing up how many times people left doors open and let my cats out, knowing how much stress it caused me whenever it happened. It was terrible. Of course, as a child, I didn't know that maybe these things were being done intentionally to like really just fuck me up. But I do think they were done on purpose. Now being older and more familiar with your tactics, and so, you know how there's this like concept of defensive driving? There's defensive living. It's knowing that at any point they can take a normal everyday happenstance and make you a victim of it in a way in which you're not going to enjoy, or, you know, establish a series of events that's just going to really fuck you up. It's defensive living. So it's like, I could go over there and I could close the windows. I'd like to keep them open, and I am planning on doing that. But it's like I now need to be aware that anytime that I leave this room, there's a possibility that something might happen if she's there and actively trying to pursue the bug across the screen. And so a greater risk has now evolved and adopted itself into my world. And I need to account for that. And I need to change how I'm thinking now. And I need to be keenly aware of when I'm leaving and coming and going upon other calculations. And it's like, they just like to cause people problems. It's just so fucking annoying living here with all of you. Like, it's terrible. Back to the idea of like being a human on planet Earth sucks. Never, ever, 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 ever let them tell you otherwise. Those people are like, either they're disillusioned, like they're just so warped and contorted and a part of the bit, or like they just haven't seen beyond, we'll call it some type of very thin veil, I guess. I don't know. And those people, I urge us all to try not to like push conspiracy on them, but to gradually try to educate them on what the world actually is versus what it looks like. I think we owe it to them, but like kind of selfishly, we owe it to ourselves to build our ranks and our knowledge and our education amongst Common Core. Like, we will be way better off if we all just kind of were on the same page about a couple of things. But that takes a mobilization and that takes education. And I honestly think that, like, for example, psychological warfare should be taught in schools. I think every single child, it's not that they have to join the army, but every single person needs to understand AI and how augmented reality could fuck them up, and how if they become a victim of a crime of this, or they start picking up on things, how to document their evidence and what agency to go to, right? They teach you about firefighters being the people who save you during fires. They teach you about paramedics being the people you call if you need to be transferred to the hospital in a case of emergency. They teach us about the police being the people you call, you know, if it all goes to shit and you don't know how to handle a situation. I'm like, okay, then where is the entity that people call when all of this is happening? Because I've tried the FBI and I've tried the CIA and I've even tried the police, and none of these creations of ours are working. So where is this entity? Why does it not exist? And why aren't we talking about it? And it's because they want to provide a cover. I believe there is a widespread cover up of this type of bullshit. And it really pisses me off because I think a lot of celebrities are in on it. I think a lot of politicians are in on it. I think a lot of people probably in business and trade and market are in on it. I think, you know, technological sectors, obviously, because technology-based, you know, flips and switches and patterns and controls and so on and so on and so on. And it's just like, we are an enslaved people. And I wish more people would start to recognize that. You know, it's not an easy thing to accept, but I'm so tired of pretending like everything is normal like they want us to, because that makes their lives easier when, you know, we're not picking up on all the shit that they're pulling. They don't like it when we complain. They don't like it when we have an opinion of it. And I'm like, well, you know what, son of a bitch? I was born with the ability to form opinions. And I know you think that's probably a mistake, but I'm going to form one against you. And in this country, I'd like to think, though, the Supreme Court justices are making it hard, everybody should be held accountable for their crimes. These are crimes. And they are crimes in my mind to some of the highest magnitude I can even plausibly imagine, which is why, back to this idea where I think some people might think I'm going to permanently knock them out. I'm like, you want to know why? Because you deserve it. Nobody in their right of mind would do this to people knowing that the people that are affected hurt and have a conscience and have a family and lives and dreams and aspirations that probably, no offense, maybe not even their own, but that's another conversation for a different time. But it's like, we don't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. This situation is so fucking just, it's like, it's unbelievable unless you found yourself in it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd like that. I'd like if we talk about it more. I'd like if we would educate ourselves a bit. back to my story. What are we? We're at almost 2:9:11:12. Almost a minute 30. A minute 30. An hour 30. Buddy, we still have some more story to tell. And then we can maybe get to what I wanted to do in the first place. I check out. I see the jersey. I'm tracking the Rosie thing. I pointed out how the dog was put down after my grandma got the cancer or died from it. How my cat was put down, and also how I think they're alluding to this idea where they're trying to create a scenario in which I'm getting put down. By the way, my maid came last week. I don't want to call her maid, a house cleaner. I didn't know it was going to be Jenny, but Jenny came by last week. So if you look up like the Canadian maid service and what that entitles or entails, I think is probably the proper word. It's like a suicide thing for people. And the concern a lot of people were starting to have is my life is just in a way right now where I don't know if I'm going to actually have a choice other than to die. In a way that's like they're just getting deemed. It's not so much a choice of their choosing. They're just getting deemed by the system as people who are less valuable. Like, we just need to kind of push you out of the way so we can get the new gens in here, or like the more strict curriculum AI, the ones that are more conservative or more okay with pedophilia because we want to, fuck cherubs again. Don't you think it's weird that they used to paint kids, like naked little kids all over? Yeah. See, it's a whole thing. I'm sure they'd love to bring that back someday. But it's like they very well might start to try to make people's lives so miserable, or they're so mentally ill, where they would sign up for a MAID process, because I know for a fact my life's so bad that I've wanted to die or kill myself, and even tried it once. But like, these thoughts happen so many times because like that seems like the only logical thing to do is to leave. It's like get out, right? It's like this idea you're surrounded by people who just want you to go. And in this life, you can't go anywhere. We're stuck on planet Earth with these fucking, they're hardly human, if human at all. And so it's like, yeah, logically, it's not even, you owe it to yourself to be like, I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to walk away from this. I'm just going to I'm going to go sign up for the killing thing. And I'm just going to die because I don't want to be miserable anymore. And I don't want to be abused anymore. I can't take it. But how convenient, right? Some people who maybe should be here for one reason or another, maybe they have like greater destinies at hand, they could play parts and educate people through their experiences. But like they would just off themselves because they're just tired of the harassment. I feel for that. But yeah, like all of that was circulating in my head. I walk outside, keeping in mind, again, the Kia Soul was planted right by my garage. A black Kia is backing up, and I'm walking like on the side. And they do not have to back up as far as they needed, like as they were and kept doing to make this little turn to just drive away. They kept going and almost like very close, like not like kissing, but like it was like, you couldn't just turn your wheel and leave. You had to keep backing your Kia into me. Sure. Noting, by the way, the white Kia, and this one was black, and I happened to be wearing black and white today. Little speck red. But still, it's just like, it was exhausting. Like, the store was just an exhausting experience that I did not sign up for. I was literally just going to go to the store and then come back, put my shit away, and then instead of doing the bullet points or the note taking I did and assembling my thought process for this, I was going to assemble it for the other thing I want to do. But everything was just so fresh and so fluid in my mind. I just focused on that, and I was like, I just need to start recording and saying all this. Because again, like I've been speaking for like over an hour and a half now, and I'm not even done. Example. So I told you the first song, I believe it was the first song I heard. I only heard 2 songs in like totality, or for the most part, coming home. I was on the country station. And, oh, look, kidnapped. I was on the country station and Austin played. And I was like, oh, I'll get to something else real quick. But I realized something as I was listening to it. I looked up the lyrics beforehand. I'm prepared. But seeing as Will was apparently in a fight of a sort, um, these lyrics stuck out to me. And this is why I think what happened was orchestrated. It was a planned event because it's linked to this song. And I talked about the song yesterday. So this is why I'm like, oh, me going to the store is probably why this happened. But, you know, I can't really blame myself too much. I'll just read the lyrics and then I'll show you. When there's a will, where there's a will, then there's a way. And I'm damn sure you lost it. Didn't even say goodbye. Just wish I knew what caused it. Was the whiskey flowing? Were you in a fight? Did the nerves come get you? What's your alibi? So I'll just show you. And so the idea of will, and then there's a talk of a fight. And I've never seen like a fight like that in my life. I've never really seen like a scuffle. I don't think. I've seen mosh pits. Is that close? Intentional violence, anyone? The right kind of violence? But yeah, I was like, okay. I'm like, it was getting, I was getting set up vibes from the song. And I was like, yep, I kind of had a feeling this was happening on purpose. Drive a little bit more. I see on a different overpass, obviously, than the one, like the freeway one I had mentioned yesterday, where there was a yellow sign mentioning beg for mercy from Jesus or something. I noticed that there's a flower wreath. It seems to be also yellow, hanging on the gate or something across this this little bridge that you have to drive under, or to get to and from the store. And I'm pointing that out right now in this moment. Not that I've really thought too much of it, but just because Danette got flowers yesterday. Hers were more purple, which reminds me of the woman's shirt that was in front of me when Rocio was trying to talk to this woman about getting in a fight with this individual who accused her of trying to hit him and then told him to not take pictures of her. But yeah, just a fucking mess. Pointing that out just for the sake of the flowers now. But the song's finishing up. I'm getting closer to home. And Oscar, once again, comes up in my head. And two things come to mind. I guess a little bit of the Oscar from whatever treat or, food that I had come across in the aisle. But also the fact that Oscar, the person, had entered my mind. Just yesterday, just out of nowhere, very randomly. And then Bluebird starts to play. And now I don't know if many of you even know what Bluebird is when I'm referencing it right now. And I don't know if Oscar worked on it, but the production group that I worked with at ABC created this documentary called The Bluebird about this bar in Tennessee. And so the idea that I was already in my mind mentally like clocking Oscar or something that would bring me back to a previous time. And, it's just back to this idea that there's like bits and pieces flowing and they just once in a while collide. And it starts to stack and make sense. So I thought that was a little bit odd. I didn't really know. I still don't know what to make of it. But I noticed that. I was like, oh, and now, of course, Bluebird's starting to play. It's a song and a documentary and a bar. But yeah, what's funny now that I think about it? So you see I'm wearing this black tank top. I was rummaging through one of the shelves in my closet before I left today. And I pulled my Bluebird tank top Danette got me. I guess I should also know I wore blue yesterday. now that I'm thinking about it. Not that I wear blue very often at all, but the fact that I wore blue is interesting. But I did pull the tank top out of the shelf, and I was like, no, I don't feel like wearing this. I actually had a very different idea of what I was going to look like today. I got a little bit of inspiration from someone I saw at Costco, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. It did not work out. We have very different body types, me and the person I saw. And let's just say they pulled it off a bit better. So I was like, oh, I'm going to cover up. I'm just going to cover up. So I wore David's humongous Adidas sweater, just threw it on. I was like, fuck it, we ball. But yeah, that's interesting too, I guess. Look at the timing on all of that. Does anything else happen? Am I done with my notes now? Oh my God, it's 9:45. Of course it would be. Of course it would be. Let me just check my notes real quick and then. Okay. Now we can get into some of the things that happened while I was home. And not even the stuff I wanted to talk about. This is when I got home from the store. This isn't this morning when I was home. No. The story wasn't done. If things weren't fucking weird enough while I was out, I end up reflecting a little bit. And this is when I'm trying to think of like how I'm going to talk about things. And I'm stringing things together before the video. So I'm able to talk about them and share with you my connections. Now you can make of the information what you wish, but I'm like, this is what I'm taking away from it, right? It's like reading a poem and then standing in front of the class and being like, this is what I'm glimmering. So I was trying to glimmer some things from what all the craziness, right? Because it was very odd what happened today. And I'm sitting on the whole Rosie thing. And at this point, I think I probably thought about, not only was I checking out with like Rocio and like the Rosie jersey, but then I was like, oh, and then I got the Carlo. I think it's Rosie, but I call it Rosie. I was like, And as I'm thinking about this, just casually in my mind, what comes to mind is Rose, just Rose, the name. And if you've ever watched Sleeping Beauty, the animated version, I can't quite remember if it's also in the live action, but I'm pretty sure they call her Briar Rose. Like that's one of her many names, right? She's Sleeping Beauty, she's Princess Aurora, and she's Briar Rose. Now, this comes to mind because I just made a character named Aurora, actually. Aurora Somerset, Somerset. I'll see you when the sun sets. And I had been thinking to myself recently about how sometimes people find themselves in such a haze because of the algorithm and like the programming within them, like that they almost get taken over to a degree, like in a zombie-like fashion, but not to be a zombie, right? But to be a menace or to carry out a certain, like a sleeper agent in a way. Like you don't know what you're doing. You just think you're doing something, or maybe you're like really clocked out, but like you are still in active motion and animation. That had been something that had occurred to me, I want to say yesterday. Just the idea of Aurora, like just being in such a funk where she goes and she poisons herself by pricking her finger. Now you might have noticed I have a Band-Aid. Okay. Let me tell you what happened. As I'm thinking about all of this, as I'm literally, I swear to God, like it was like beat for beat. Like there was no time wasted. Like it was a fluid exchanging of thoughts and ideas, which turned into an active reality. I'm thinking about Aurora, I'm thinking about Briar Rose, but I'm thinking to myself at the very same time, I'm like, that part isn't really relevant. Like, you're not maybe going to care about my story character. And like, I really don't necessarily think that it fits the story I'm trying to tell right now when it comes to like what I've compiled. So I'm going to keep this little shiny bit to myself, but at least like I've come to this understanding of it. I open up my fridge in anticipation of grabbing my cat food. the wet cat food and feeding my cats, putting some food in their bowls, my finger goes like this against the open can, the aluminum can, slices it. This, like, I've had moments where I've sliced it, but not like this. And I was like, I've just aurored myself. Like, it was like, what just happened? And this is scary because the hope would be, much like when we were talking about the windows and like living defensively, I'm more aware than I think some other people. And so you would think that maybe like me being like so kind of on top of stuff, things like this wouldn't happen. No, they still do. Like, so I took a picture just to like prove the point. But it's just like, for fuck's sake. So this is when it first happened. I was like, you have to be shitting me. I'll show you the time. And then the blood, because I'm like trying to figure out what the fuck. It keeps going. And here's the other side. It didn't get too bloody, but it's like, it was ridiculous. And this reminds me, by the way, because it was like so like story-esque. Like that is like fairy tale fantasy. Like the princess just fucked herself. Last night, because yesterday was a bit more of an active day for me, I think I was just a bit tired. So I took a nap on these bar stools I'm sitting at right now. I had my head on the one to my left. I had my legs perched up right here along this corner of granite. And my butt was still seated in this one. And I made a little bit of like a, lounge for myself, for lack of a better word. And I fell asleep while some music started to play. And YouTube was just on, not necessarily like random, but you know how like a video will play and then I'll just like select from like whatever. I fall asleep. I'm in a sleep. And Goodnight Moon by Go Radio, I guess, is playing. I guess. Because I don't know. I'm asleep. Okay. There's a part of this song. I guess I'll look up the lyrics for you. Where it talks about falling. Okay. Let me pull the lyrics. There is a nail in the door and there's glass on the lawn, tacks on the floor and the TV is on. I always sleep with my guns. Oh, and guns, I guess, make a comeback. Oh, wait. This is a different song. This is by Shivari. I'm glad we brought back the fucking claps, though. Oh, and there's a blade. Shiva, by the way. Not that this is meant to be them, but, this idea of like a certain type of goddess, I guess. Interesting. This is not the song I was looking for, but sure. Maybe I'll be more specific. Go Radio. And it says at the top, and don't go to bed yet, love. I think it's too early, and we just need a little time to ourselves. If my wall clock tells me that it's 4 a.m, I'll give it hell. Because I've been trying way too long to try to be a perfect song. When our hearts are heavy burdens, we shouldn't have to bear alone. So good night, moon, and good night, you. When you're all that I think about, all that I dream about, how'd I ever breathe without a goodnight kiss from goodnight, you? The kind of hope they all talked about, the kind of feeling we sing about, sit in our bedroom and read aloud like a passage from Goodnight Moon. And it goes on and on and on. Until this section of bars. And there you were, and I saw my Juliet come graceful down the stairs. It's hard to miss the way her eyes. Wow, are we projecting? Are we projecting? Her eyes light up the room and steal the air. Just feel her lips lock onto every breath I take and breathe it in. Do you feel us falling? And at this moment, I believe, during one of these two fallings, I think, I abruptly, and this scares the shit out of me. I couldn't even tell you the last time anything even close to this even happened ever to me. I'm sitting on my chairs and out. The song is singing, and on cue, I something happens to my body and like I move over, like roll. So it feels like I'm about to fall off the bar stools. Again, this song is like telling me what's going to happen to me. It's a production, you know what I mean? Like my life's a reality TV show. I don't get paid for it and people get just fuck with me. And it was so scary. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. Like I think my heart was beating really fast. Like it was so abrupt and I genuinely thought I was going to fall. And I didn't know like how far. Like I was asleep. Like I just had this feeling of falling and then there was the sensation of, oh, you are kind of falling. It's terrifying. But I wanted to point that out too, because that was very also like fairy tale-esque. Like this is some bullshit fuckery damsel in distress. Like, what are we doing here? And I don't take kindly to it. Like, I don't need to be a victim. Why am I a victim? Let's just fucking get justice involved and hold people accountable and get rid of them if we need to. And better regulate whatever powers that be on the grid system so people can't actually and actively augment people's lives and elements of it. Like this is so beyond what is it that I used to call it? It's crimes against humanity. Like this is genuinely textbook crimes against humanity for like the modern age. I do not take kindly to anybody involved in this. I don't think is this fun. I don't think this is right. And I don't care what excuse under the sun. Like, for example, we touched on it today. This idea of like, oh, you're training. It's like, no. And especially after like being next to Phil's coffee and then sitting across the way, Danette like trying to like tell me about espionage school where some people actually go to learn how to be spies. And it's like, no. They've been showing me a lot of totally spy stuff, by the way. And it's not that I remember watching that show. It was never like my favorite. But they've been putting it up a lot on my YouTube feed recently. So I think there was an acknowledgement a lot of like stuff was going to unfold. I just didn't know how until now and then as it continues forward, obviously. But no. No. This isn't training. That is no excuse for this. This is bullshit. This is bullshit fuckery. I will note now. But wait, there's more. My receipt. Do you want to guess how much money I spent today? Should I give you a second? I guess if I wanted to like be a little bit more clear, what numbers do you think are involved in my receipt? I'll let you sit for a second. Okay. What time is it? 1:52:25. That was a mirror. 52:25, two heads. $57.83. So what I associate with like the 8s and 3s now, actually there's a couple of things we can take away. 8 and 3 to me always initially goes back to E. Jean Carroll, because, you know, Donald Trump raped her and then she sued him for defamation and she got a shit ton of money because he just didn't know how to stop and control himself. So that's what I think of firstly. But secondly, now that I think about it, alphabetically, 8 is H and 3 is E. So he. And going back to yesterday, when I actually, it's not very often, but I named myself he. I think this is a bit amusing. So I'll show you. Also 271, by the way. But yeah, you want to know what I pulled earlier in the day, way before this receipt? Does it say the time? Like what time on the clock? Give me a second. In case you're wondering or care. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, you want to look at the total coupons, by the way. 560 or 460, pardon me. That's when the coup happened. And during the 46th era. Does it say what time? Sorry, give me 1 second. Oh yeah, it does. Actually, it shows it right where it was. So 7:28. Oh, 7s and 8s. Fuck, are you serious? For some of you who might be familiar, why 7s and 8s are really interesting. It's because of there's this whole Kobe conversation, and that's a time I nicked another finger, this one actually, next to this one, in my shower, on a day that I specifically remember having a conversation with myself about an ability for there to be male and female bonds. I think a bond is not so much the character James Bond, but it's just like a class of bonds. Like there's police officers, and then there's special agents, and then there's detectives. Like it's just a branch, guys. And they're like, no, you can't. I forgot exactly how I came to the inference that they really were just like, no, there can't be female bonds. And so I was like, fine, we'll just be the 8s then. Okay. That was my logic. We can't be 7s, 007s. Like we'll be the 8s. And then the next day they killed Kobe Bryant, famous for being number 8 and or 24, and Gianna, and a helicopter crash. We had that Jackson crash, obviously that happened, but that was another crash with Black people, by the way, because Black people don't have it bad enough. They get to be a part of this political bullshit fuckery, this human trafficking scam, and they just get murdered. And we're like, oh, look at the accident. And it's like, you have no idea how much bigger picture this is. Like, you son of a fucking bitch. You know what I mean? Like, you start to really get, like, you start to boil, like internally. And I'm getting microwaved right now, so I'm boiling on the outside and the inside. But fun. That's when I checked out. The idea of checking out, by the way, also still fits in with the idea of clapping, getting shot. The crash, my Kia Soul, for example, came up today in more ways than one. So yeah, death threats. Lots and lots and lots of very fancy death threats. Not your typical fare. I'll just take that to be another one, honestly. Cool. So 57. Back to the point. 57. Okay. This is what happened earlier. I said 157.0304. I saw it and 5. I saw it at 10:02, by the way. 2:10. That's that Russian link. I had mentioned, I didn't give the whole story, but what had happened is I had flipped open my laptop and jumped to Ray's stream because I remember that he was playing Kingdom Hearts. And I liked the series. I specifically really liked the second game. I've never played the third, not really. And I've played the first, but a big fan of the series, other than when I really start to think about some things. And then I'm like, and we can get into that later, and you actually might start to be like, wait a minute. But it's deep theory, specifically rooted in a lot of how I my life experiences. So you have to understand it's going to be warped by that key. Again, I'm not going to get into it right now, but if somebody gives me a ding in my head, not that I like that, but if I somehow get reminded, we can do another video and I can talk to you about why maybe we should be a little bit more sympathetic towards the heartless. But yeah, I'm looking for this Hydra creature because I remember as I'm opening Ray's stream and a Hydra is literally that's the first thing I'm seeing. I remember how I had randomly opened up a book and I couldn't quite remember which when I was at 304 and I pulled a Hydra and I kept it open and I couldn't quite recall right now as to why I kept it open, but I do remember there was a hint about it where I was being more so associated with the Hydra. And so I was meant to be perceived as the bad guy. And I'm only saying this because not that I really know Marvel. Oh, I saw a kid in a Marvel shirt today too. But like, I think Hydra is like a bad entity, right? Like it's like an evil organization. And so I think at 304, I was like, oh, they're trying to associate me with dumb shit again. Keeping in mind as well, like there was another episode in my life, and I talk about it frequently because it's been brought up frequently, where I was called like Lucy and Lucifer, or, you know, I was meant to believe I was Satan. And like that really got to me. And I was made to believe I was the one that fucked everything up and why the world's so bad and whatever. It was a mind fuck. But anyway, I went during the Hydra pool. I do remember thinking, okay, this is one of those things where they're trying to associate me with something that's maybe not good. And I kept it open, and I kept it open for a good amount of time. That page stayed open. And I went through so many fucking books. Let me show you. You, the audience right now, are stacked. By the way, you probably noticed, maybe you didn't, that our angle is a little bit different today. And that's for two reasons. One, we're facing this way because it's darker outside. It's nighttime. And I need the lights from the kitchen to shine on me in such a way that makes sense. And this is just the night angle for the most part. But two, you're lifted to be a little bit more of a reasonable camera space. Like the camera is like literally like at like here, as opposed to being down here, because you're on two of my Dungeons and Dragons books about yay high. So not including those, because those are a part of it. I'm going to show you the stack of books I fucking went through like a mad woman. All of these and those. I went through so much fucking material today just looking for this fucking Hydra. It's 10:06, by the way, just for the reference of. Also, I think it was 2:01:13 for a certain birthday. 16 for the, J6 stuff. Because I knew it happened. And it got to the point where I was like, are they giving me a false memory? Because I know this happened. Because, for example, in the monster manual, there's a Hydra. And this is where I thought it was originally, I believe. I thought it was in one of my D&D books. Oh, no. I thought originally, sorry, and this book was stuffed in my closet. This book wasn't even readily accessible. I thought it was in this book. So if you notice, there's an edit. There's actually a couple maybe that I did on the commentary of the image, the screenshot. And that's because I said monster manual because I thought genuinely in my heart of hearts the Hydra was in this book, and it wasn't. In fact, this book doesn't even have like a glossary. And so I flipped through. It doesn't have a glossary. It just goes straight to monster protection. And then there's like a letter, which, by the way, and this happened after I pointed out the training thing and the Phil thing came up, because the Phil thing happened like directly after the beat of Hydra. Look it says apprentices, and it's a whole letter. And I was like, there we go again. You're trying to act like you're trying to teach me. And that's your excuse for this horrible behavior. So I flipped through. Anyway, the point is I flipped through literally every single page in this book, which thankfully it's a thinner book. But still, that's how much I care about what I'm trying to do here. It's not in here. I recalibrate. I'm like, okay, maybe it's in my D&D books then. Okay, luckily, this has a table of contents. And lo and behold, on page 190, so flip that 6 for me from that 1006. Might as well. 1080, just for the, thanks for the help. So 190, I'm going to show you something. This is for my YouTube frogs. Look how cute you are. Look, you're just eating things. You're just eating people. It's like we're all consumers. Look how cute. That's you. I go to 190. And I have a vivid memory of this, by the way, the Hydra and what it looked like to me. It seemed, in my mind, I'm like, it's purple, it's big, it takes up much of the page. I think it might even take 2 pages. And that is the memory of the Hydra for me. That is what I'm going off of. That light read from 304, okay? I'm going to show you what page 189 and 190 look like. Or, this isn't even right. Why am I on Kraken? Why the fuck am I on it? Because Crackjack or whatever, huh? This isn't the right page. But thank you for letting me know. Once again, I'll say, for sake of record, that's 196 and 197, 69, 96 being the next page back. So 194, 195, 4s and 5s has a Kenku. This is fun. This is fun how this is coming out. I made a Kenku character, by the way. I've decided to call them Aves, though, Aves, because I didn't necessarily want to limit my own personal idea of what a bird race could be, or a bird character. And so just for the sake of opening up the pit a little bit in my creative space, I just named my birds Aves. They can have like sub name. It's like families and genuses or genuses and, you know, phylums and orders. You can start like building and stacking, but again, for the sake of my creativity, I was like, let's just call them Aves. But I've made a Kenku. My Kenku is a cleric, and my cleric knows how to heal people, but he also knows how to do some very nasty things, if you can imagine. He worships the faulty sun, which is itself likes to be known as the first sun, but it's the second sun, and it's a false sun, and it's not a real sun. Oh, look, and there's even a jack. I'm sorry, all of this is like light reading-esque. So this is even the next page. We went from Kraken to Coos to Jack. Neat. Also, invisible stalkers. I'm sure I have plenty of those in my life. Okay, I found the Hydra. We finally, like 4 pages back are flips of the page. We got to where I wanted to show you. So again, keeping in mind, like I had a very vivid and distinct idea of what I'm looking for. This is what I pulled. It's 10:12. I'm only saying that because my Post-it note has this. This is my appointment for Sub-Zero. So 10:02 is close enough to 12. Also, the 1 lines up to make it a 12 if you just drop it. On a timer. I love my name and what that means for me. It's so fun. This is what I see. I'm frantically looking for this Hydra. I'm a little bit miffed, a little bit frustrated. I didn't find it in the first book. And then I'm also kind of upset it didn't have a table of contents, so I had to go through every single fucking page, right? I'm like, oh my God, the Hydra's here. This is what I see. I'm like, this is nothing like I remember. Also, Intellect Devourer, by the way. I'm like, that's not the Hydra of my mind. Like, that's not the Hydra of my vision. Now, I want you to look at in this. Does this not give you Mind Flare vibes? Right? Just a little bit. Like this creature that really fucks with people's heads. Do you want me to show you what page 57 is? Let me make sure it's 57. Or maybe it's 75. Hold on, gamers. And it also might be a different book. I should have put Post-its in every page, but... Oh, no, it's the other book. Okay. I'm going to show you something. Because again, like keeping in mind, oh, the ruler's in it. Okay. So I actually did find a bookmark. It's just, I was using things around me. So I pulled my Post-it and then I had a ruler. Funny how that's where that finds itself. I'm like, okay, that's not it. So I'm like, all right, I have this bad boy. Let's go through this book now. Again, luckily, and I'll show you, had a table of contents. Let me see something just very quickly. I wanted to check. 158. So I see in this book, I'll just walk you through events as I remember them. A hydro loft. Kind of sounds like a loft, doesn't it? Now that I think about it, LOFT versus LOTH. And I'm like, all right, that's not a hydra, but like that has hydro in it. You know, maybe it's a distant relative. So I do flip to it. What page is it again? Hydro 158. Hydro 158 15158. And I met with not only something that looks nothing like a hydra. Across from it is something called Jublex. And we all know how well, you know, things are going with anti-Semitism these days, right? YouTube frogs, they've made you into quite the monster. I'm so sorry. This is what you look like now. This is actually, you know what that kind of reminds me of? And here's the other creature. It kind of reminds me of those rock entities from Zelda. Anyway, so this looks nothing like a hydra, right? Obviously. And I'm growing frustrated because the longer it's taking me to find this imagery, the longer I'm thinking, is this a false memory? And it's not so much that I lied in my post. I'm starting to grow doubts of like my version of events, and it's fucking with me. Like, it's psychologically, it's really actually starting to rattle me. Like, if you're wondering like why it took me a while to like post one thing and then maybe do another, like today I could tell you specifically, it's because I was searching through all these books and having a little bit of like a mental breakdown. I was like, where is this thing? I swear, like I don't like lying to people, and I don't like the idea that I'm giving people false information. And so I'm like, where is it? Like, they're driving me crazy at this point. So I think what I do, and I'm not entirely sure, at some point, like just start like light reading. I'm just like, oh, you know what? Let me just like check the pages. I get to 57. You can probably already see it. And this brings us back to Sam Riegel and his Minotaur of Swords. I literally look at page, again, 5-7. Those are very specific numbers. And I see this thing and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Okay. And it's just like, what are we doing? But not only am I noticing that, I'm seeing SAM, so Secret Agent Man, back to that Spider-Man bullshit. Do you see the Sealed Away? There was a whole conversation our Supreme Court justices try to have with Donald Trump's lawyers about what happens if he orders SEAL Team 6, Mr. 5 wannabe 7. Okay. Wants to hire the SEAL team, the secret agents, to do this job, this hit job. And essentially recently they're just like, you know what? Yeah, he can do that. And it's like, pardon? Or as Travis would say, excuse? And it's like, you can't just be able to hire hits on people willy-nilly, and yet all of a sudden that you can? What? Like, that's crazy. So this is like, yeah, I saw this today and I was like, oh, this I think I found not like relief, but I think I was a little bit like calmed, because like the panic was building that the Hydra thing didn't exist, and maybe in my mind it was just like a false whatever. I saw and found this, and then I was like, maybe I'm struggling to find it so much because I was made to look around a little bit more and see if there was anything else around, right? And lo and behold, you know, not only this, I also want to point out just very quickly, illusionary room and reverse gravity just is interesting. Reverse gravity specifically because when I was driving And I think even maybe driving back, I saw a bus with the word fly on it. And I would have, if you reverse gravity on somebody, they're flying, no? But yeah, this was very concerning for me. Also, frog again, now that I think about it, which is really weird. We've had frog for frog for frog. YouTube, let's go. This is YouTube coded. But yeah, there's that I found. But now I'm like, back to the mission at hand, right? And it's like, where the fuck is this Hydra? Where is it? I want this fucking monster. This ain't it. And going through those books, and I think I might have flipped through the other two, which is my Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master's Guide, I'm starting to think in my mind, I wonder if it's like one of those random pages in like one of my Dungeons and Dragons books that specifically is like a filler page where it's like the full art, but it's like it wouldn't appear in the table of context. And I'm like, I do not feel like flipping through every single page of every single Dungeons and Dragons book I have to look for a full page art of a Hydra. And in that way, in that moment, I am a little bit defeated. And I don't quite recall. I think I might have then went to Harry Potter. I believe I went to Harry Potter next. And then the last book I checked with the Essence of Mind might have been, I had, honestly, I was in the bathroom after doing all of the other shit, like, and looking through stuff. And it just occurred to me, it's like, hey, maybe it's in your Hercules book, you know? And I was like, is it actually the Hercules Hydra that I pulled at 304 and not like from one of my monster books? I was like, fuck me. And we'll get to that in a second. But I think I had gone through the Creature Vault. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I had just done the 57. I was like, I'm a little bit curious to see if even Harry Potter is Trump coded. So I went to, I believe, did you know there's something called Uranian Iron Belly? Oh, is this from Inkblots? Or whatever the... Oh my god. How interesting. Because this is... If this is a dragon from the bank... I live really close to a city called Burbank. Like, I grew up in like the Burbank, Glendale area. And Ukraine is coming up. Like, I know it says Uranian. Oh no, the K is there. Why couldn't I see the K? The K was like totally like masquerading itself. This is page 78, by the way. So that's also like Kobe coded. Look, we're linking Russia to all the terrible things happening over here too. It's so weird and crazy and totally unexpected. So no one paying attention. I was like, okay, I want to see if even Harry Potter is Trump coded. And so I turned to page 75. And I do believe I check 57 as well. Let me see. Let me see if I can recall what that was. Oh, 57 wasn't a great pull. I checked 75 first, though, if I'm not mistaken. Oh. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. I just figured it out. Oh my god, we're fucking cracked. So page 75 and 74 are Chinese Fireball. Okay. For the sake of record, 74, 75. Which happens to be a red dragon. But first and foremost, I'm like, of course, for the "you're fired" guy, they'd have something alluding to his famous catchphrase. But I'm also looking now, they mentioned Victor Crumb. And, oh, they also mentioned an academy. and this idea of like, you know, him just claiming victory automatically and like all this fucking dumb bullshit. I'll put it close. You can kind of read it, hopefully. There's that if you want it. Take that for what you will. There's the other side. It's just like, oh yeah, somebody's like, you could, you know, theoretically change the 9 and 19 for a 6 and you get 1 6. Yep, you certainly could. You are right. You are right, good sir. I'm like, okay. So now let's check. And I don't know why I checked the 75 first before 50 or 70, 57, pardon me. But then I go to 57. And something actually happens before this, but because I just made a discovery to myself, I will we'll talk about this and then we'll talk about another aspect of this page. I initially flipped to this page and I'm like, I don't see it. Like I got the fire thing, like the fire thing made sense. But when I first flipped to this, I swear to God, like I was like, I'm not seeing the connection. And it's not to say that I always fully expect or try to connect dots to make things make sense to me in my mind. But it's like, I was just like, okay, you know, like it's fine. It's not like that big of a deal. I just wanted to see. I was just curious. By the way, like I think I was like pretty like 100% sure there was no Hydra in this. So me flipping through these pages was more so, I think, because I had pulled what I pulled in my Dungeons and Dragons, and now I was just like, because I wasn't expecting to touch this book today. I had already eliminated it in my mind as a possibility for my Hydra, so I wasn't gonna fuck with it. But curious is the cat. So Donald's Kingdom Hearts Atlantica. You ready for this? You can kind of already see. You see this little man with his tentacles and all that? Octopussy, right? Octopussy himself. You guys ready? This is page 57, 54, 55, 56, 57. I'm going to show you the number on a different page, though, and then I'm going to flip so you understand. You kind of see this one, and then you see this one. Cool. Because there's no page numbers on my side, the one I want to show you. But look. What is that? And what is that number? What is that? What is this? What is this? And what is that number? Ray literally got to the, like, he just like hit up the Atlantica level before finding himself at Pirates. And then he didn't even finish Pirates today. He didn't, like, we wrapped up maybe a couple of, you know, big moments into the Pirates world. But like we, before that, like just before it, got our Octopussy Donalds. And now I'm just literally realizing, yes, even Harry Potter, which hails from England, is Donald Trump coded. We should all hate this man. Anyway, this is a Grindylow. And this is what I initially saw, because I was looking specifically for that number, so 57. And I was like, there's nothing here that looks like Donald. Again, I didn't connect until just like now during the stream that it's the Octopus Connect. But, you know. But if you can see up here, there's a bit of a quote from Hermione Granger. Now, before I had made this poll, I had noticed something during a light read. Where is it? Oh, well, I should note this too. Yesterday, I ended up quoting Hermione in particular. I'll say that right now. Danette had pointed out something to me because I was talking to her about how people can get routed in such a way where it's like even their achievements, like everything that they think and that they do can be of somebody else's design and structure. And you're just like the vehicle, you know, carrying it out. And then her trying, I think, probably to be a smart ass is like, oh, so it's like, you didn't even really write your book. And it was like, Oh, I guess not. But that's a really good point you make, because this is a problem. And I've pointed this out to myself about how upsetting it is to think that you can put your time and your effort and all of your heart and your passion into struggling to make something you've always wanted to work, and when really it was just a pre-design. And it gets to pop up and work out when they want it to, or it's going to be a waste of your time because they also want it to be. I was like, yeah, no, I've thought about this. But she very quickly wanted to point out, oh, so you didn't write your book. It's like, no, there is a possibility. Everything I do creatively is, through somebody else. I think told her, I was like, there is even a concern in me that through my writing, somebody else is trying to do like covert like communications. Like, yes, these are things I think about, and it bothers me. It does. It genuinely does. But with all of that in mind, and I was like, because I told her, I was like, that makes me unhappy. I don't like that. And then I was like, I'm not an owl. I'm not an owl. And I think she kind of laughed. And it's like, there's that. Specifically a Hermione quote, by the way. Here, give me a second. Companion. Oh, is there... Here, let me just go to the beginning of the book and see if I can find what I'm looking for. Oh. Chapter. I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4. It's chapter 4, and it's page 87. So 8s and 7s are now becoming more of a thing again. Oh, it's 10:31, I'll point out. That crashed and burned real quick, didn't it? I'll show you. We're going to go to Trespassers, also 45 for Lake Dwellers is interesting. Oh, there's a 911. The War King Worlds. This is great, you guys. So 87. And I believe I found this in a light read, like initially. Oh, no, this one. Oh, no, I was right. Look, just back to Ukraine real quick. What page is this? 81. It's the one from the bank. A pretty dragon. It was always like my favorite one I've ever seen in that movie. Cornish pixies. So I want you to look at Trespassers and how there's a huge O and there's a bunch of trolls and a bone hitting somebody's head. And we talked about like the taco cat and like rape and all of that. And I just want you to take it in. This is a light read. This was a hell of a light read for me. I was like, here, I'll try to get closer with the words. You want to read them? So I'm already taking this in. I'm just like Tina Belcher, like status. Like, I'm just so not into this right now. I flipped the page, and there's Hermione next to a troll. And I'm like, is this like Astro World? Like, what are we doing? But yeah, there she is. So the only thing I took away from 57 when I went across it was not actually the, can you see the page number? Just for the sake of clarity, 89, by the way. We'll get to Olive in a second. It wasn't so much, oh, there's even a 10. Bluebird, Tennessee. It wasn't so much like the creature. In fact, I was kind of like flummoxed by the creature, to be frank with you. I just didn't know what connection was to be made. But I was like, oh, and here's Hermione again on page 57. It's like, of course I'd be associated, or, I being because I'd pulled the quote out of my ass yesterday. And then like the whole, like back to back, like the trespasser, oh, Hermione. They all look like they're dancing, huh? It turned into a whole thing. Oh, you know what I'll also point out? Because I have color theory coming up in a future conversation we're about to have in like a second. He's wearing blue and red. I wore blue yesterday. I've been wearing this red tank top here and there the last couple of days. So there's that. But yeah, I was very just like, oh my God, even Harry Potter, right? Like you would hope the distance of an ocean. You would hope the distance of an ocean, but it's like when you think about like satellites and like living on a grid or like a planet, it's like it's so intertwined and interconnected. Like, of course, it's gonna have dumb shit involved in it too. You could probably go to Greece and look at the I don't know. You can go to like ancient museums or something. You just ancient like sites and like find stupid things that they've been like lacing in the fabrics of reality since forever. And it's so fucking unfortunate. Like there was this one quote Donald said that made me really stop and nobody pointed it out. And I've said things of it a couple of times because that confused me because you guys are always so quick to like harp on like weird sentences and phrases and things. And he's like, people have been, grabbing people by the pussy. He didn't like phrase it like this exactly, but he did say for millions of years, not thousands, not as long as we've known our societies and civilizations, pardon me, and technology and the idea of being a star. He said people have been doing this for millions of years. And it's like, what do you like? That's just a lot of number. Like, what was happening a million years ago? Like the theories, like were dinosaurs even around a million? You're like, what? What do you mean? So I got sussy vibes. But that gets us after the Harry Potter debacle. I'm like, okay. I break for it. I go to my bathroom. And I think this is the line of events. The Harry Potter book, there is a possibility came after I found the Hydra. Because there was a point, and we'll talk about it, where I looked at it and I'm like, I don't even know if this is the right one anymore. So like it could have been the reason I actually pulled that, but the number thing is still circulating, and we'll get to that in a second. During both of these like book encounters, but I'm like, oh, I have an actual honest to God Hercules book. Oops. My grandma worked for Disney. So, we have a few cool things around the house. That's kind of sick. So this is just a Hercules book that goes over the production of Hercules, and it talks about in depth, like with the animators and other people involved, the processes they went through, and it features additional sketches for certain things, including like the Hydra or other beasts that are a little bit more fantastical. It didn't make the cut. Oh, Cerberus, my baby. Look at Cerberus and the Muses. You ready? You ready? You ready? That was my light read. We have Cerberus, my wolves, and then I don't want to like show leg too much here. Look, there they are. My three ladies. I call them Muses / Fates. And that's why I'm showing you that in relation to that. I know there is the Fates or the Muses. I don't even know which is which anymore. But I literally call them like the women on my like both. So to me, this still kind of tracks. Also, she's holding up a mask. So it just goes to show you can be many things in life. There's a mix and a match. When I initially opened this book, the light read that I got had a Hydra on it. Not this one, but I can show you. There's actually another thing I want to point out on this book too. So this is an example of like a sketch of a Hydra, but also like a fantastic piece that didn't make the cut. You notice this is like 69 or 68 and 69. This book is hard to hold and like show you. Do you see that, Phil? What does he say? Now hold on an olive pickin' minute. Are you saying that it's supposed to be me? And he's almost even looking at like an apple, or if you go further, the Hydra. And maybe even further up. It's funny, I wrote a scene where my character is doing something like this. My little rogue, Owen Smith. I leaked the names. I don't know if the names are going to stay. I think they are. I'm pretty okay with them for now. Although I might switch Isidore and Eisengrad. Those two families. Not so much like the roles of the people, but just switch the names over. But I don't know yet. But yeah, I accidentally leaked the names of my characters, and I was like, whoops. Whoopsie. Those are just my main characters, though. And it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I thought it was really funny. 69, by the way, if you don't know or don't remember, to me is like Russian coded, specifically Vladimir Putin, because when I was paying attention to him at 304, he was the age of 69, and I was getting like the rape dreams and like all of those things started really happening to me in such a way where it's just, it all kind of stuck together. So I still think of that number and I associate it with him, though he's like older now. I don't know how old. I don't really fucking care. Be in the dirt tomorrow, I just don't give a shit. But the fact that we pointed out olives yesterday, and then we had talked about Phil training. So we're getting two things, coming up. The Phil training, back to earlier in the video, it's 2 hours and 35 minutes at this point. Actually, can I show you? Because I know, like, when I take the screenshots and me just like showing you stuff on my phone, like it's not the greatest quality, but the other option is me emailing them, and then that takes up space on my phone now and my laptop, and it's just like, so Phil's coffee. It's right by the red vehicle there, right? In which we get a 666, which is the devil, or, I don't know, Hades, right? Right. We're cooking. I used to say, like, it's hotter than Hades, like when I was young. And oh my God, it is summer in California and it is hotter than Hades. It is very warm. But I found that when I was flipping through the books. Let me try to find my light read page. It's like, again, like when I first... Hello, Ariel. Why are you here? I'm only saying that because we just talked about Ariel too. Okay, this letter keeps falling out. Like, what is this? Also, this is us big braining. Look at that butthead. But like, what are you? Why are you here? That's page 86. Oh. Execute order 86. That's not good. No wonder Flounder looks so fucking depressed. Oh, and this is like straight Phil. And there's Mickey. Why is he sticking out his pelvis like that? And why does Phil have a dick in his mouth? What is happening? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It's like he's thrusting. What is happening? This is like the hugest scandal ever. This is worse than Ariel's castle on the front of the fucking cassette or the VHS copies with the dick castle on it or whatever. What is going on? Hold on, gamers. I don't know if I'm going to be able... I mean, I could take the time, but I don't want to waste any more of your time. If you're stuck around for so long, you've already given me plenty. Oh, there's the muses. And there's a map of the worlds. Little players map. Little ladies down there, right? Muses, fates. What do they call themselves on this? Let me see if I can actually get it right for you. Did you know that there's someone named Gerald? Early on, I thought the movie was going to be set in a more natural, consistent universe. I was hoping the Greek influence was going to be a constructive limiter to the film's visual style, but the other influences, Gerald, the writing, the nature of the story, and particularly the directors, expanded the boundaries of this film. Are you going to tell me what these ladies are? What's heroic? What's villainous? The Fates. They call themselves Fates. Okay, sorry. And then just to prove a point, although if you didn't see the names, I have a letter we can get to. This keeps falling out of the front, so I guess they want me to show you. And I do know what's on the inside. of the letter because I looked through it earlier, much earlier in the day. Let me just try to find this Hydra. Okay. So this is, I'm pretty sure this is what I was looking for. Literally, what seemed like until that point, like all day, like it was just this mission I had sent myself on, and I was really just fixated on it, and I didn't want to be a liar, and I didn't want to be wrong, and I wanted the clarity of my mind to know I wasn't crazy and misremembering things, or making shit up, or I want to say this was the light read. And so you notice just really quickly how I mentioned the 69 just a second ago, and then there was a fill and an olive, and we linked that to Russia. I want to show you what page this is. And then in remembering that I brought up a show recently, okay, did I not on Discord bring up a show? What page is that? And that's how I got to 69. But I found 69 first upon how this process is happening between you and I. But that's how that happens. That is how that happened. Let me see something, because I want to say, not only do we have the 170, there is the word car on this page, and we did have that accident with Jackson. Can my hair just chill? My hair is still, like, the layers are still so short. If you remind me, I'll show you how long my hair is now, though, if you want. But like the layers are so short, and it's like, please just stay behind my ears. I'm being so patient with it growing, and it's like, just cooperate. Just stay up. So I will show you the car, the word car. There is a stacking of devising, and then right underneath it, there is the word technology. But technolo then has a hyphen, and it goes to the next bar. So it says G's, Gies. And I'm pointing this out because you could take the D from above and it would say die. I'm considering G's in the way of Xi, the way in which it's pronounced as the Chinese leader, versus how it's spelled as XI, and how I associate with X's is Tesla, Starlink, human trafficking. So I thought that was very interesting. So devising dies, devising deaths, devising, the trafficking, the Starlinks. I thought that was really interesting. I also will point out the word keys, because Kingdom Hearts. Also, I had shown my Discord my key system that I worked on just to make a little bit of like a fun role playing aspect to when I'm writing my book. So I can actually play a tabletop game in a way by myself, of course, but have a little bit of fun while I'm trying to like write and make things up. But I specifically wanted to point out beyond the car the name Natalie, because Natalie is the name of Henry Cavill's. I know we're getting into like celebrity territory. I'm so sorry, but it is what it is. And if you look at the high school of, you know what? Fuck it, I'll just show you. Fuck it, we ball. I'll just show you. It's 10:48 for the sake of time. I was still on a car, by the way. Oh, I didn't realize until now it's from Massachusetts. It's a Massachusetts plate. Shoots, claps. What were the other words we came across today? So Kyrie Jackson, not images. Oh, why did I pull up Kygo? the hell? My phone isn't showing me like, oh, I spelled it wrong completely. That's why. It's like, why isn't it pulling what I usually kind of see? I want to also say, oh, Upper Marlboro. Can you guys see up there? I now have 3 boxes of cigarettes. I don't think I've told you about my newest one, have I? Here. So he's from Upper Marlboro. I can't even say the word. Marlboro? I can't. It's like sea anemone for that fucking Nemo character. Me. The layout is still different though. Oh, there, it's still showing me. Let's scroll down. I've been doing my research on my laptop because it's just easier. But look at Henry. And so if you know anything about Henry and Natalie, I just thought it was very weird that we've had a really big car accident. The name Henry got brought up. And now they're dropping the girlfriend's name. And I'm just like, what are we doing here, folks? But also, hold on. I'll just show you because cigarettes. I had found this one, I think, outside of my house a couple weeks ago, after the other, like, 2, like, after the show, I believe, like, the Critical Role show. And it was in the middle of the street. I saw a piece of trash. I didn't know what it was, so I picked it up. And it just so happened to be a box of cigarettes. And because I kind of have, like, a bit of a collection now going of random boxes of cigarettes, I guess I collect them. Parliament. Oh, interesting that we just were talking about like Starlink and stuff because Starmer. Don't you guys call your government Parliament? No? Yes? No? Oh my gosh, you know what was holding that up too? I totally forgot I had it. Was that like little robot thing? So right back to Sam. Right back to Sam and Sam's character. So yeah, I'm gonna point out all of that stuff for you. Well, I said it, but I'm gonna show you. To the best of my ability. That's a really big book. Here's what I think I was thinking of. See how it's full page and it's purple? But like I didn't find this until like the very end of my search because I didn't think to myself, oh, you're actually thinking of the legitimate like Hydra from Hercules, the one you just saw on the screen. Yeah. So car, right? Then we have the Technolo. Devising in G's, right? And then we have this, right? I'll show you everything else just in case you see anything. But I came across some of these things and I was like, who's doing this investigation and how do I get them this information? Like, they should know, you know, in totality, like all of the details and like if this was a production in the making of, when the fuck did Hercules even come out? Like, that's crazy. And then it's still like it having like Russian symbolism with like the page numbers too, and the relevance in that. It's like, hey, America, we should probably talk about this, right? And then it gets more rich. Because if that was enough, and I only realized this a good bit, like after I was just very much fixed to like the language and all of that and the names. Look at Hercules. What color is this cape? What color was my dress yesterday? Right? And I'm like, oh my God. And then I think to myself, oh, it's a cape. And then I remember, oh, Seascape, I think was like the name of the village, like building that I was in when I was at 304, so Redondo Beach. And then I look at fucking Pegasus's hair. And see how it's a different blue? It's a more vibrant blue. I promise you, I took a couple of pictures in that unit with my hair that color. Because I want to say before I even moved in, like that was the color of my hair. When the unit was getting remodeled, that was the color of my hair. So the idea that my hair is the color of a winged horse to top off the blue cape, wings, by the way. Can you see them? Kind of. It's 10:54. Because of course it would be. It's just like, what are we doing? So yeah, let me talk about this envelope real quick. June 1997. To show legitimacy. In the art of Hercules, the chaos of creation. We think it's clear that the success of this film is based on exploration and collaboration. This book celebrates how artists, writers, and musicians together define a common artistic goal. It's funny that they say that because you think about how many people are involved and how many heads. Is that not a hydraulic, model? And that's the villain. Tattletaling on yourselves. Your talent, experience, and love for the art form has made every mile worth our while. In quotes. To all of you who created this film from blank pages and computer screens, our fond appreciation for, end quote, going the distance, end quote, with us. From Peter Schneider, Alice Dewey, John Musker, and Ron Clements. And I'm going to talk to you about the names real quick because when Donald Trump, I almost called Annette Donald Trump. She might as well be. When I was talking to her about how being a human on this planet was literally the absolute worst, and she was kind of trying to just ever so slightly to the best that she could, be like, no, it's fine. You do want to live here. I'm like, no, I don't. I likened her to the mentality of Inksock. And I'm like, you are completely in this. And I'm not. And so I had brought up Orwell yesterday. And I don't know if any of you, it's a tip number. Oh, do you watch it change from 56 to 57? The St. Clements Orwell. That's literally what I'm going to type and we're going to see what pops up. The first thing that pops up, Peter Parker, is from SparkNotes, and it's 1984 quotes, The Glass Paperweight and St. Clement's Church. George Orwell by theme, mind control, manipulation of history, resistance, and revolution. That's the very first thing that popped up. Let me see if I can scroll and find exactly what I'm looking for. Oh, oranges and lemons, yeah. So I pulled the Wikipedia. I don't even know if it's going to do the Orwell bit. Oranges and Lemons is a traditional English nursery rhyme, folk song, and singing game which refers to the bells of several churches all within or close to the city of London. And so it mentions Dane and St. Clement, right? Back to this. Now let's jump back to 304 really quickly. There was bells on the harbor. And often they would ring. Oh, by the way, do you remember the seal bit on page 57 or 70? I think it was 75 on that one, that poll from the Dungeons and Dragons, where it had the Sam Riegel-esque character or close enough to it. And it had the sealed away. Danette gave me a password called Seal's Bark. And it's not only seals that I heard in the distance most days. It was also the ringing of a bell. And it was just a part of the atmosphere of the village and living by King Harbor and the hustle and bustle of oceanic life. But I also got harassed by this person who said they got my information from the internet named Dane, D-A-N-E. So Saint Dane Clements. Also, Danette's name is D-A-N-E, Dane, or T-T-E, so Danette. And then she married someone named Daniel, so D-A-N-I-E-L. But it's just it's just so much. He also used to, Daniel, work in VR. And talking about like mind control and like manipulation and the rewriting or fabrication of history. Like that is very VR coded, right? Like a virtual reality that's maybe it's real, but it's not, and it's just under, you know, the control of the programmers, whatever. Like so much happened today, 254:27. It's just like, whew. I think we got through it all though. I would do like a long-winded outro, but my throat is sore. I want to drink more. Not that I want to drink more, but like my throat's just parched. So I'd like to drink and enjoy my evening. It's now literally 11 o'clock. I haven't had anything to eat. I haven't even started cooking. I bought, you can't see it, but there's like falafel mix and stuff over there. I was just so focused on like doing this just so I could get it on record. And then for anybody who cares or like catches up on this shit and wants it from the source, and not either word of mouth or so like weird mind voodoo. It's really important to me that I do this as much as a lot of people try to accuse me of not working, Danette being the sole leader in that tirade. It is one of the many types of assaults I have to deal with on a typical basis. But yeah, like, I'm good, man. I'm just going to say, thanks for sticking around if you did. If you're like, wow, oh, that's pretty crazy. It's like, yep. And that's just one day in my life. I mean, there's a couple of things that came together through like the history and, you know, yesterday, but it's like, today was one day in my life. And it's just, we can't live like this. Like we should be demanding more. We should be demanding better. Like, where is my fun little world where I get to, you know, design my character and be who I want to be and be the elf, or, you know, have hit points, and if I go down, it doesn't hurt all that bad, and I respawn in a bed like Minecraft. Like, why is this the world? Like, why is it such shit? And it's like, the easiest answer I could give you is somebody's choice. This is somebody's choice to do that to people like us. And it's like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy to think that people could be that demented, but you know, here we are. I hope you have a really good rest of your night, or maybe morning, day, whatever. And I will be seeing you either in Discord. I've been trying to focus a little bit on story stuff mostly when I can, but today was just so important. I haven't even touched my story stuff. That's what I'm just calling it for now. It's just, but yeah, like this takes precedence. Like there's the fun work, and then there's this type of thing, right? And I really, whenever something starts to happen, I just feel compelled to share. Just, if nothing else, the hopes of educating people who maybe like me grew up in such a way where you're just completely unaware. And that was the point of your growing. You know, that was a point of how you were brought into this world and educated, and how conversations take place, and news is spread or covered. It's very disappointing when you start to realize that we live in a cell, like a prison cell, like the plastic shoebox Danette wanted for her clothes set. And it's like, well, you know, the reason we probably exist in a closed set in which they can observe us at any time and control everything is because it's not probably allowed. It's probably not supposed to be how things are. And they had to find a very special dark area, like in the middle of space, for example, away from any other things. And so they could get away with it. So that's just depressing, but here we are, right? I'm not trying to depress you. I'm just trying to educate you, or at least open up your minds enough to consider, you know, reality, not as it is on the more like surface level of understanding, but just to dig a little bit deeper and to inquire, you know, either within yourself or maybe amongst your peers, like, hey, have you noticed anything weird? Like, do you ever pick up on weird shit like that? And Danette and I had a conversation where she was trying to make it seem like, well, you just read things sometimes like in a different way. Like, I don't see it that way. And I'm like, Danette, it's called keys. Not keys like my game mechanic, but like keys in the sense of like, of course I'm going to pick up on a 666 in a Satan's sled license plate because they accused me of being Satan themselves at 304. Of course that means something to me. It's part of my key. Like, if you start to notice like there's elements of your life that become more prominent, there might be a reason as to why. And I'm not saying it's a good thing to start diving into that and really looking for them like an I Spy novel. We're all little children now, just picking things out from the environment. The fun, interactive, augmented reality none of us chose to be in, we get abused in, and you live to die in and suffer. God, it just pisses me off to be here. But the point I want to make is like, it's not necessarily that I advise you to look for like my keys, for example. Like, you'll have your own keys. And then I would also say don't fall down too into the rabbit hole, because they'll start to try to talk to you through them and lure you into these different depths of perception that start to really warp your worlds. And I think it's important to clock them when you do these little talking points that they plant, these little Easter eggs. And even to document them through one way or another, either you're writing them down or you're taking pictures. Because I think every single person on this planet probably has a hell of a good case against whatever the fuck is doing this. And, what better detective than you, right? Like, nobody's going to see the world through your eyes, but you're going to notice when things get wonky. So, yes, pay attention if you can. Document it if you feel comfortable enough. Acknowledge that the more you do pay attention, though, the more they'll see it as an opportunity, as a way to get to you. And that, if they already haven't already in one way or another, it's a very treacherous territory. And so, go with caution and go with, somebody's watching. Hi. Are you getting good life advice? Are you going to listen? Vigilance, right? It's vigilance, and it's, above all else, keeping a sense of peace of mind and acknowledging when they start really affecting you, either emotionally or your perception of the world and maybe even people or things around you. And maybe it's driving you to maybe ideate towards committing acts of either murder or something extreme you would never do, or committing like suicide, because they could easily do that if you allow them to plant their tendrils, and you don't have those mental blocks. It's a lot of mental fortitude and training to know who you are versus who they want you to be today. And you being able to stop and be like, no. And even if you can't necessarily change your emotions, you can still stop and be like, I really don't think this is how I would. Oh my God, my voice cracked. My throat is so fucked right now. I'm like parched. I've been talking for fucking 3 hours, dude. Let's wrap it up. Where was I even? Does it even matter? Fuck it. You know what? We're calling it a night. I hope you all took something from this. I hope you learned something. And I will catch you next time. Bye.